All right, guys. So we're recording now. Obviously, this is Butch here, but what we're going to do today, and I'm going to let Nate describe it a little bit better than me, but obviously what we're thinking here is the transition from no gi to gi, which is one of the biggest, I think, I'm trying to think of the right word, but it's one of the hottest topics right now, because you have some guys that do IBJJF, right? Or just gi competitions. And then you have, of course, EBI, Submission Underground. No gi is probably, quite frankly, the hottest thing right now, wouldn't you say? I think people agree. And really, it used to be that most people thought the transition was pretty easy. And quite honestly, certain transition is pretty easy, meaning that
yeah, most stuff honestly transitions over. You don't have to change much.
Yeah, and then just even for myself, though, one thing is this is overgeneralizing it, but like some of my favorite passes, like I'll grab the pant legs and pass, right? And then all of a sudden they're not there. So I know this is not necessarily what's going to happen on now, but I think we talked about it. Nate and I were talking like last week about this meeting and this DVD type thing coming up. That used to be the thought process was, as long as you had underhooks, you're okay. And that's not necessarily the case. That's part of the case, right? But it's an overgeneralization. There's a lot of things now because you don't have grips. It's where to position your body, where to align yourself properly. But anyway, I don't want to get on that. But go ahead, before we get into it, Nate.
Because what I'm really going to be trying to do is, like, that may be an actual rule of thumb that's really good. Mm-hmm. What I'm going to try to do is explain why that is the rule of thumb. And what I really want to do is, like, there's a reason why you're doing it differently in a gi than no gi, and that has a lot to do with like the gripping and what's available and things. But what you're overall trying to do, right? So like doing the knee slice passes, you're essentially trying to accomplish the same thing by passing the guard. So I'm essentially going to be explaining in this particular situation closed guard and how we're going to. I've always found that trying to break somebody's closed guard, and especially a no-gi circumstance, is incredibly difficult. There's no grips. There's nothing to grab onto, and your opponent from the guard in jiu-jitsu really has all of the attacks. So I don't have any actual submissions that I can do from there. So being stuck in that position can be pretty terrible if you don't know what to do. And I feel like a lot of gi people, that's one of the places where they start off struggling. So that's what I'll start off with, is I'm going to explain some gi techniques that, why they work and why we do the gi techniques the way that we do them, and then kind of transition that into no gi with different no-gi techniques that are accomplishing the same kind of principles and strategy as in the gi. It's no different, but we're going to be doing some different movements. So I'll start.
Nate, one real quick second before, let me interrupt you. First of all, I'm going to put you guys up and get my ugly face off there, but go ahead, just so we don't forget, and tell them a little bit about yourself. Really, look, nobody wants to brag, but here's the bottom line too, is you're great in tournaments, big, little, regional, right? So the reason I bring that up is just because for people that don't know you, what you're going to say is very valid, right? In my opinion, right? I'm a black belt. You're a black belt at this point,
It definitely works for me. I'm not going to tell anybody what they got to do, what they don't got to do. This sucks, that sucks, whatever. You just take what it is, and if it works for you, great. And I think that it will. And if it doesn't, then I'm more than happy to answer questions or anything, or maybe if I understand why you don't feel like it's working. But I say take words on their merit and how they actually translate in reality, not don't just take my word on it because I do have tournament success and things like that. I think that does give me a little bit of credit, but I think that the techniques that I'm going to be going over, for one thing, I'll be referencing where I've learned them from as well. So it's going to be so far past where I am at credibility wise that you're going to be essentially saying okay, well, Gordon Ryan doesn't know what he's talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I joined
Exactly. I think sometimes people forget that is jujitsu. All of us, right? We learn a lot of times. Rather, in my case too, I trained with Alia Gracie and stuff. I learned from the source, right? So we learn, even when I'm teaching, you're teaching, or Josh is teaching. Any of us, what we're teaching is information we learn from other people, right? So
yeah,
you know,
for
most
sure.
of the
Nobody's just making this stuff up.
yeah, exactly. Now, before we go to, I mean, you've been doing jiu-jitsu, what I say, 11 years roughly, right?
Yeah. I mean, I've had a couple year breaks and stuff, so I've probably got about a solid 8 years of actual mat time. But over my lifespan, 11 years.
Yeah.
So
So,
a
and
lot of these.
just for me, because I know Nate doesn't want to brag, but Nate, both of you guys actually really, but I mean, you guys are solid. Both of you guys are capable of beating purple, brown, black belts left and right, which jiu-jitsu is not about, the color belt that you beat. But my point is that your technique's as solid as anybody that I've ever went with or know. And I just want to make sure, people don't really, it's not that makes or breaks anything, but I want to make sure that you guys get credit, especially Nate, you obviously for sharing your knowledge. But I think it's important too that people know that the background that you come from and the things that you've done. So anyway, let's go ahead and move on. I know you want to move on before. I just want to kind of give you some credit and let people know who you were before you got into it. Okay. All right.
Huge honor for me to be here with Butch, Hiles, and Josh. We're going to have some great information. I'm just kidding, guys. I don't do it very good for our impression. So we're going to start off in close guard. And I'm going to go ahead and start off with our bread and butter pass. And I'll actually go over a lot of kind of obsolete passing from there that, a lot of people have done and explain why it doesn't work so that you can understand why we're doing this. A common method for people to pass is for them to grab both of the pants down here and bring the elbows in, have a tight posture, and start to try to break the legs from here, start to step back, spread the opponent out. But what this doesn't accomplish is controlling the person's upper body. So at any point in time that I'm here, my arms are not controlling anything up here. I'm just down here, right? So at any point in time, Josh can sit up, pull my elbows, he can mountaineer sweep me, he can attack Kimuras. He has a lot more attacks that he can do because I'm not controlling the upper part of his body. So that is why we don't like to generally do this pass where we have both arms here trying to break the opponent's legs open. So what we do instead is we're going to control the fabric up here, not in the center of the chest, because what's going to happen is they're going to drag us over and they're either going to take our back or they're going to attack an armbar because nothing is controlling their hips. So we have to control the material on this side of the body. So what this is going to do is this is going to control his body from being able to sit up and attack me. Now what's going to happen next is I am going to control down here on the side of the pants here. So we're going to control the upper part of the body. We're then going to move my own leg out of the way, because if I just sit here and try to break this leg off, my own leg is in the way. It's blocking. So I'm going to have to move it out of the way. So we're here controlling the posture. We've got our arm here on the side of the pants. So what he's going to probably start trying to do from here is attack grips, and he'll start to attract this grip down here as well. And what we don't want him to be able to do is to take this arm and then just push it inside and start attacking the triangle as well. So we grab the pants here, and that blocks that. So we got control here, we've got control here. We're going to move our leg out of the way, and we're going to start to pry this leg off while still maintaining control, and then trying to bring this leg here. So now we're here, we can go into combat base, and we can either start to work our way standing up, or we can start trying to pass from the bottom. So this is really good, but once we lose our grips, right? So once I can no longer grab the lapel or the the fabric on his gi, once I can no longer grab the pants, I become really susceptible to all of those attacks. So, for example, if I'm just, so we're going to take the gi off for a sec. Go ahead. And what's going to happen is like now his shirt will just move. So if it's a street fight kind of self-defense scenario, this isn't realistic. I can't grab his pants here, so I have to keep my hands here and here to try to wedge, and I'm just really, really close to triangle danger, right, with all those moves. So in a gi, these are very, very effective because we have the grips, and it becomes really hard to remove those grips. But when I lose them, I'm very easy to start pushing around when I just put my hands here and here. Okay, so another one that we like to do from the gi, this will be the last gi thing I go into, because these two moves accomplish the same or aspects of the strategy to the next move, which is a no gi move that I think kind of ties all this together. I'm going to keep this pretty short. So we've got the gi. Now, I think if you're going against anybody really, really good, so somebody who has been doing jiu-jitsu as long as myself, as long as Butch, if you're as tall and as long as me and Butch, you're going to have a super hard time breaking these legs. So instead of trying to pass from a seated position, we're going to work from standing position instead. So I'm going to get control of the sleeve here, right? So his arm will not be able to escape. So now once I grab here and I stand up, the same side arm is the same side that I'm stepping up on, and then I can come up to here, boom, and start working on passing. But this is all based on having this sleeve and passing it over and then coming up here and passing. So I think this passing strategy is really, really good because it's going to work on people all levels. Now, there's the aspects from both of these I'm going to now explain into the no-gi one. So go ahead and take your no-gi, put your gi jacket off, and then we'll get started. So I'm in Josh's guard. I need to make sure I don't get attacked with my arms for triangles. I need to make sure I don't put my arms on the ground for kimuras. I need to make sure I don't keep my arms close in here. What I really want to do is not set up moves to defend against one thing. I want to kind of make sure he can't do anything, right? If I can do something that stops everything rather than just one thing, that means I don't have to worry about any of that stuff. So what I want to do here is when he is like sitting here and we are working our grips and trying to actually like fight through, I want to get inside bicep control. So to kind of show you what I'm talking about here is I want to get both hands here on the biceps. So this takes away, can he arm bar me? No. Can he sit up? He cannot. He can't attack a kimura. He can't triangle me. He can't omoplata me. He can't do any, this is just like kind of everyone's basic safety position inside bicep control. Sometimes we'll use the head to kind of rest here, and that's fine. Everybody can get to this position. Now, what we want to work from here, now that we've got this kind of control and this kind of safety, is start to work our passing from a safe position rather than positions where there are actually attacks on me. So how I'm going to do this is I'm going to switch my angle real quick. I'm going to bring my head forward. So what happens is like my body is over top of my hips and therefore my legs are very heavy. Once I bring my head forward, so I really want to bring this over top of his head, my feet and my hips become very light because my torso is no longer over top of it. So I come here. So we're just standing up straight from here. Now he's got two options as far as his attacks go. One of them is he can come down, attack my ankles, and then push. So usually what they're going to do is they're going to kind of drop a little bit down like this, or maybe a little further up, and they're going to push me forward. Cool. And they're going to start trying to attack. That's option number one. The second option that my opponent will do is we come through here. I bring my head over top of my opponent's to make my hips and feet light. Boom. Now I start to scoot back a little bit. So I want to go ahead and start to kind of straighten out to break the legs. The next thing he might do is sink this knee down and hook this leg here. So like this knee is going to come inside here. Yes. And he's going to start to attack this leg. So those are the two things I have to worry about from here. But if I know what to do, then these are not that big a deal. So we'll go over the first one and then the second one. Oh, yeah, good. You gotta answer his phone real quick.
Okay.
So far, does that seem pretty good, Butch? Or?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm not even gonna ask any questions right now because I want you to get into everything, but perfect explanation on everything, on also the differences so far. So it's perfect. Good job.
Cool beans. So we're going to go in. I've got bicep control, head over the body, making my feet light. Come up to the feet. My opponent is going to try to grab my ankles here. Now, he can't tip me over while his feet are locked, right? So he's going to have to break his feet. What I want to do is kind of put some lean here, and it's going to make me really, really hard to push this way. So it's just kind of like a counterbalance. And then once I've kind of froze it for a second, I want to bring my knees in. So kind of like this. And this will kind of shut that down. We're then going to bring our hips forward to here, and we can put our opponent's feet down to the ground. I can start to work on the leg drag and attack my passing from there. Or it's essentially the Achilles pass that we do. So that's all that we're kind of doing from there. We're going to wait for our opponent to try to make that push. We're going to keep our weight forward. This is like a balance kind of thing that's a little bit tougher because if you go against somebody really, really strong, they're going to, as soon as you start to stand up, immediately try to push you that way. So by just keeping your weight and head forward, you're going to make that movement really, really difficult. What it does is it crowds them, right? It like crowds their actual body from being able. So think of it from like a weightlifting perspective. If you're bench pressing and you only go halfway down, it's significantly easier to press the weight back up than when you bring it all the way down. So if it's all the way down here, from here, you're going to have a much harder time pushing it up, and it gradually gets easier. So from that passing position, what we're kind of doing is crowding their body so that they don't have the ability to press off of you from a strong position. If that makes any kind of sense, hopefully. So the next one that I'm going to do is this one really is more based off of a principle. So if, for example, we get here, we're controlling the bicep, we come up here, now I start to stand up to pass, and he starts to dip this leg down. What I want to do is before he gets here, I want to press down here. and I want to keep my shin. So this is a lot of the knee line stuff that I'm talking about. Generally, in like staying safe, is I want to press his. If he can get this leg to start coming through here, it's going to be a bad day for me as far as like having to try to defend against the leg attacks and stuff. So just as he starts to come through here, I'm just going to step this leg back, and I'm going to take this hand and place it on the inside of his thigh, and then come here. Now, once I'm here, I can start to knee slice through. I can come into the split squat here and start to pass and try to get into, you know, like side body, back take, something like that. But mainly keeping this leg down to prevent him from being able to get his leg inside here. And that's pretty much it for those two passes, or the two things that can kind of occur off of that. And you should be able to kind of create some space and get some passing done from there.
So here's, and which is awesome, guys. Here's a couple of things I want to ask your or get your opinion on. So one thing is, and I think I actually asked you about this before, Nate, and you said you didn't remember, which is okay. So I'll try to remember. I think actually when you were rolling with Stephan Bonner, he did the same pass, the very first one, but the difference was you were able to back sweep him. The reason is because, just like you said, as soon as he jumped up, you went immediately into the back sweep, right? So you did sweep him. However, the counter to that is, because your legs are open as you push him down, you immediately swing the arm back and kind of just go almost like putting yourself in a triangle situation, but you're not, because you're falling on your back. So do you know what I'm talking about when you swing your arm in between the legs, and then as you sit up, you're basically throwing them into a leg drag situation at that point. You're coming back to your knees. Does that kind of make sense?
I think I can kind of visualize what you're saying, and I'll try to have Josh kind of reenact it. So he's doing the same type of passing. We get here, and he pushes me back.
Yeah.
Here. So he's bringing the leg across here.
Well, he's not. Yeah, but if you slid your left arm back right there, if we're not reversed, yes, and just slide his arm over as you sit back up, you're essentially going to sit back up into a leg drag. Does that make sense? So as you swung your arm back, you're in the perfect spot, and now you just bring his leg over your head as you sit up or across your body, right?
So this leg.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, but slide your left arm, if that's your left arm that's grabbing his Achilles right now, completely under. Yes, that's it. Yep, perfect. Yeah, exactly. A little different, but that's essentially. And again, I mean, you already said you didn't remember it, but that's what he did. The only reason I'm bringing that up is if people that don't, again, we didn't really talk about your background, right? But you're essentially trained under Marcelo De La Riva, which is Carlson Gracie. So Stephan Bonner is also under Carlson Gracie. That is a Carlson Gracie pass. So what the difference was, just this is kind of important just for context, right? Meaning that before you said a lot of stuff I do, it's it could be Gordon Ryan, or it could be, you know, Eddie Bravo, you know, it could be anybody, right? This is a pass that when jiu-jitsu started, so the reason I bring this is just our history, our lineage. Carlson Gracie taught Brazilian top team this pass, right? And this is what they essentially used for all MMA. They had no other pass. The difference was when they stood up, they took both hands, put it in Josh's throat, essentially, for lack of a better term, what we jokingly call the rape choke, right? Because you're inside of his guard, slide both hands on his throat and stand up. Knowing that all jiu-jitsu guys are going to go for an arm bar because you just put both arms on the guy's neck, right? As they went for an arm bar, that's when he jumped up, popped his hips, swung across. So worst case is they didn't go for an arm bar. They got to the back sweep position you did. Then instead of doing that, they just slid their arm behind them, slid the leg. Because the only difference, like if you back sweep me, and we've talked about this, you guys know, if I was the one getting back sweeps or back sweeps and I tighten my knees, you can't go to mount, right? If I don't, you know, right there with Josh, you go ahead.
Exercise on that next. So, and talk about like if somebody actually does get you with the with that sweep. So yeah, pinching the knees is like 100% the count. If you And it's kind of like the same thing that you're doing in like passing, right? So you're timing it out as they're trying to pass you and you have your weight forward, right? They start to come out and then you just pinch your knees on top of them and then put your weight forward. So it's what you're doing to pass is also kind of the defense for when they're trying to come up. So say Josh like sweeps me from this position here. So he gets me here. So as soon as I pinch the knees here, right, he can't sit up to actually get the mount anymore. So then I can kind of just sit back, put both feet up, right? And then he still can't get me. And then I can come up and do that pass that you're talking about where we do the leg drag, which is actually the one I prefer. Or there's a couple of other ones that you can do as well. Like say, for example, I come here and then I just let that one go, right? Because it's really probably not going to do anything anyway. And just keep that up there and then start to come up from there as well. So you can either pinch no matter what, you're going to do exactly what you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
Pinch the knees because that's going to stop the come up, which is what they're going to be trying to do.
Because of that, right, since you know that counter, are you ever afraid of getting back swept and Josh coming on top? Do you not fear that at all?
Not once I can pinch the knees. I let that kind of happen all the time just to see if people will do the right thing.
Yeah.
And then I always.
So, and I think that's a good point because I think, you know, if I was just an observer that was a white belt, right? Then I watched you guys two roll and then Josh back swept you. I'd be like, oh man, Josh, he got the move. Nate's in trouble, right? Not knowing that you already know that, so you're ready to counter the counter. You're going to come up on top. You never really got swept because in order to get the 2 points or whatever they're going to give you, even if it's an advantage point, right? Josh has to come up on top. He has to get to his knees. If he doesn't, he's not done anything. That's not a reversal. That's nothing, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So, yeah. And I think that's the biggest thing maybe when somebody's teaching in class or somebody watching this right now is to say, listen, man, like the worst thing that could happen right there, maybe not the worst because we already talked about you attacking the leg, but is to get back swept. You're already ready for that. The only way that you're going to get mounted or lose position is if you fall asleep, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, if you just lay there as they do the sweep and then just let them kind of sit up, but yeah, as long as you're pinching the knees, you're making it so that they can't like plant their feet down because they need to kind of move a certain way to do that, right? So they have to be able to come up, and by pinching their legs together, like you can see mechanically, I just can't. I can't come forward. My own legs are in my way. My own feet are in my way. I can't spread my legs long enough this way to come up. So yeah, pinching the knees, keeping those tight are going to 100% stop me. And then you can then leg drag from there, which I think is probably my personal favorite. Yeah. Or you can just stand up with the leg. You could even probably like attack the legs, right? Because they're on the inside, but I think I could be wrong. I'm not the best person in the world, but as soon as I come here and I start to kind of get the legs out here, I can start to get my leg here on the inside position and bring this leg through and start to attack heel hooks and things like that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you've got a lot of danger doing that particular sweep. The secondary sweep, the one where you're bringing the knee onto the inside position, is really the better sweep or the better move, I would say, as far as like which one has the least amount of danger and counters. It's just the other one you'll see more often because it is more simple and more direct.
Well, yeah, and I think to oversimplify, I think the way that jiu-jitsu was taught a long time ago, just because a lot of things that we're going to do today or that you're going to talk about is concepts, right, or simple things. So a lot of times, and you've heard me say this too, right, is because I'm overgeneralizing things on purpose, but it's like if I stand up in your guard, I've taken away the armbar, triangle, choke, omoplata in general, right? You can still do some of those moves. But the difference is that just before people started attacking the legs is I could stand up and I could be tall because I'm 6'6", right? And I was fine. But now if I stand up and be tall and don't actually put my legs in the proper position, I'm actually really giving somebody a long twig to attack, right? Because they'll go under. And even in the gi, the most popular move there was just a knee bar, is to swing into a knee bar, right? Which is the same position, right? Dipping the knee on the inside, swing your other leg on the outside, get in that position. But if I was going by IBJJF rules, that's why the knee bar is more popular, because you can't take heel hooks into effect, right? So you go to the knee bar, maybe you get a straight Achilles from there, maybe a toe, you just kind of go through those three moves, right? And I think now that we have to be more cognizant of all the moves, you can't really stand up straight. So like in general, I quit saying that as much to people, like, hey, just stand up. You don't have to worry about anything. Because that used to be the general concept. Now you stand up and you got to worry about your legs. So you put yourself into another hornet's nest, essentially, unless you know what Nate just taught. Like, you know that they can do that. So you're attacking the knee line, or pushing the knee down, stepping back, right? You're looking for the leg coming over. So if you look for those concepts that you brought up, you're still safe, but you have to have the background that Nate's giving you right now. If you don't, if I just stood up in your guard and I'm like, well, they can only back
like, oh, it's easy, just stand up. That's
yeah.
all you gotta,
So that's true.
Yeah, that's way too simple. You definitely, I think like that though is like the right strategy. Like standing up in a really, I mean, I could never, like I tried, I'll show you if you want to put your gi back on, I'll show you a couple of things that I tried to do against like you, for example, Butch, and they just never, I could never get enough stretch out to actually break your legs. So I would like try to control the inside. So I take this like lapel area and dig it underneath the armpits and then start trying to stretch you out from here. But I felt like even though I was keeping you pinned, my own posture was so low from this that your legs were able to still attack and you were able to like push me around and things like that. And I mean, Josh is probably like 5'10", where you're 6'6". Like I would be like up here trying to stretch you out.
Well, and knowing that as a tall guy, what I also know too, and this is a mistake that other people make, so this is good for you to kind of bring up to people, is if you're stretching Josh out here, we'll pretend Josh is 6'6", right? So we'll say his legs aren't bothering him, but if Josh readjusts his guard and goes high, and that's what most people do because it gets more comfortable, then now you can kick the guy's butt, because now you can use your knee to slice through the middle and attack the midline, right? Yes, exactly. Yeah, you could. There's a lot of stuff you can do. So that's the difference. Like, if you know the concept and you keep your feet low, you could kind of stay in the game. I mean, then Nate's got to do something else. But in general, a lot of people just they're not patient, right? So they'll start going high guard on you, which is not necessarily wrong, but it gives you way, like some people call that log splitter pass. It just gives you way more options as passing, right? So. That's all the difference is. Just to address your things, I just keep my legs low for that reason. And I know, like, as a tall person and having a closed guard game, because I came from the Gracie system a long time ago, and it was all closed guard, is that you just kind of locked your legs and held on for dear life and made them pass, right? And so, like, as a tall person, that was my game because that's what I was taught, and it's very hard to pass. However, like, I don't feel like it's a modern day jiu-jitsu. That's more of a jiu-jitsu, I think, for MMA, where I'm just going to maybe get my butt kicked for an hour and then submit somebody at the end or something, right? Because all I'm doing there is, the reason I'm keeping my legs low is because I'm not attacking, right? It's a boring game, right? If I have a 5-minute match in IBJJF, if you took me down, that's why we ended up in that position, you're going to win. Because if I start to attack, then you're going to get out, right? It's a different kind of a game that I think also is not effective in no-gi too, because now no-gi, like the other thing no-gi's done is they've done a lot of submission only, no time limit, right? And so you would think in general that means a guy can do what I just said, like hold on and stuff, but not really. I mean, because it's like both guys are just going to rest, right? And then you know.
That's what happened with me in my last match where I actually did lose. I just got into close guard, and I mean the guy just didn't have any passing. Like he just sat in there and he sat in my guard the whole time, and that was 7 minutes of him just me attacking him for my guard and him just kind of sitting in there in it, and that was like the whole match.
Yeah.
And he won a ref's decision because
He's on top.
like he was on top.
Yeah,
So,
which is a bummer because you would think in this day and age that, you know, I don't know. I didn't see the match, so I'm not gonna say no. But if I imagine, it's a bummer because people shouldn't be counting the guy on top in jiu-jitsu in general, right? Because the guy on the bottom is the only guy that can put submissions on. So even if you're throwing up crappy submissions, you're throwing submissions while the other guy sits in your guard. So like,
yeah. I mean, he essentially, like, I feel like if you are trying to work in a seated position, like from a seated position in guard, like realistically, you're more or less just like stalling.
yes, yeah.
Like you're not going to, like, in order to actually get outside of their guard and break it, you are going to have to stand up. Now, depending on the level of your opponent, some people are going to try to hold on to that as you stand up, and some people are just going to let it go and start trying to get ahead of the game and work for the next thing. So, I mean, that's the thing, realistically. So if I get here and we're trying to pass and everything, I come through here, I want to stand up and just start to, like, kind of, like, as you can see, there is a lean, right? Like, I'm not just like this, because, like, as you can see, that already starts to kind of knock me over. I lose my balance because his legs are heavy in front. So, but I am in, like, a straight positioning. And then I'm going to, and I'll work on this side, start to push this leg down from here. And like I said, I'm going to step this leg back, keep my hand on this knee here, and keep on pressing this down until I can start to step through here. And this is like what we talk about with passing, where we slice this leg. So if I'm here, I slice this leg down. This leg stays up because he can no longer reach his legs to one another, right? And then I can start to come in here, close the space. Let me scoot more in this way real quick. So once we're stood up, like this should be like our standard strategy, right? Like this is step one, but our opponent has reactions that they can do off this. Because we know the two reactions that they can actually throw us, we can pretty easily start to predict, like, and react to what they're going to do. So for example, like I said, they start here, we're going to push ourselves forward, pinch the knees, start to press here. And then if I can, I'm going to press his feet all the way over his head. You know, I don't really like to mess with their feet here because they're still pretty strong. So put them here, stack them, and then I can start to leg drag over to here, and then just kind of spin it into side body.
Well, and which is perfect. Let me ask, and this, sorry for backtracking, just because I just want to ask it. I know that you're going to cover this in a second, but it's just on my head. So if somebody drops, so if you stood up and somebody drops their knee and Josh tries to attack your leg, how often do you do a toe hold counter from the standing position from there?
From standing, not very often.
Okay.
But from a seated position, I do it a little more, not with necessarily any expectation of getting it, but I'll show you kind of where I like to attack this from. It's anytime I am, so go ahead and scoot a little more in, Josh. So we're here. Let's say, for example, yeah, I pushed. So this is the leg you're talking about going down, right? And you're asking how often I attack this foot with a toe hold.
Actually, in a little bit different. Let's say that he dipped his knee and he's bringing his outside leg around.
So from here, he's coming through.
Yep.
attack the toe hold.
Yes.
Oh, well,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
if they get their leg on the inside here, if his foot is over here, it's going to be hard. I'm going to have to get his foot out here so he can dip around here, and then I can attack this foot, but I don't have any real control. So what he's going to do is extend his leg out like this to the fence. So I get here, boom.
How about the foot that's on your hip? The only reason I ask you this is not a move that I do or any of you guys may do, but Eric Paulson was big on attacking that leg right there. So Josh's right leg, he would attack. So he would, Eric Paulson, for example, which is a good catch wrestler, good everything actually, he would let them kind of lock this in. Just make sure he didn't fall. Go ahead and lock that in, Josh, for me. So there you go. And he would attack the inside, the foot that's on your hip right there. Perfect, yes. Yeah, and then sometimes bring his leg around and see now he has him trapped. And I don't do this, but it was a big thing that Eric Paulson taught right there. I don't know if there's anything that you worry about.
What I could imagine him doing is taking this leg and weaving it behind my leg, and you have to push me forward, right? And then he extends his foot out, and I'm going to lose this, and I'm also, I think, in like, what is a bear trap?
Oh, okay.
That's got my here, and I can try to attack this, but I think it's you really want to prevent that inside control. If I can,
that's a good concept, right? No, seriously, build on that. So talk about avoiding that inside control, because again, this is what I'm talking about. Eric Paulson doing this here. This is late 90s to 2000. So this is before, and he may have changed his game by now, right? Because leg lock game evolved. So this is perfect. Like you can say, well, this is why this is no longer valid, because if somebody has inside control, if he goes for this, I can destroy him this way. So it's actually perfect. I mean, it helps me as well, because this is a concept. You can say, well, if he has inside control, don't ever do that, right? Or if I, blah, 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 whatever. So no, that's perfect. I mean, it helps a lot if it doesn't disrupt your flow.
No, you're good. Yeah, I think that's a good point to bring up. So, yeah, I mean, I'll try to instead here. Let's let Josh and I will go over some attacks that I would do off of that inside leg position, so you can kind of have like an idea of what you're trying to prevent. So Josh is in my closed guard. So we're here. My inside bicep control goes ahead and works towards standing up. Boom. So if I come through here, I can sneak this leg in. I can get into X guard. If I get this knee in, it's really just a frame that keeps him from getting heavy on top of me, right? Like from here, if I've got this, I'm going to be able to come through here. It's so kind of glued to his hip that he's going to have to do a lot of work maintaining his balance and digging my foot out. So we have here this attack. We have inside X guard. We can even transition now into single leg X, because when we're doing all of this leg attacks and stuff like that, it's all about my legs dominating the inside space here.
Okay.
So anytime I'm doing any of this stuff, I need to be here. If he can kind of keep my legs outside, right? I no longer have any heel hooks. There's no heel attack. There's no inside control. If I get this leg onto the inside, we're essentially in a kind of like 50-50 style positioning. So this leg's on the outside, he squats down. So if you think about it, I have my shin on the inside, he has his shin on the inside, but he's on top, and I'm having to carry all of this weight. So this is as like good a position as I can get, and depending on where my knee is at, he's going to start working a lot of passing from there. So I'm going to have to try to get this leg back on the inside position, which is going to be hard because his shin and knee are going to just be blocking me. So I'm just not going to be able to attack. You're not just shutting down, you're shutting down everything that they have from there. You're not just like shutting down one move by keeping the knee down. You're shutting down their whole game, because the entire leg lock attack system involves having inside control.
No, that's perfect. Yeah, so and that addresses that question from the get-go too. So it's more, if they did get their leg all the way around, then you shouldn't let them basically be humping your leg upside down. Simple.
Yeah. I mean, really want to, like, I mean, if
they get there, we got some different options. But I know what you're saying.
Right. So I really, for him to attack my legs kind of have to be close to him. So what he's trying to do is he's trying to come inside here. He can shoot his legs through, come in, attack single leg X. I'm trying to step my feet in. So I want to come in here and then start either A, slicing this way, or B, slicing this way. Okay? But either way, I'm going to have inside control, and I need to put my shin against the backside of their thigh to keep them from being able to attack.
And how would you so for somebody starting, how would you classify inside control? So even though you put your leg and split his legs and have inside control, one could argue that Josh's right leg was in between yours. Obviously, you're stepped back. So is that because you're stepped back, because you did a step back, is that why he doesn't have inside control? Right? It's almost like a 50-50. So like if you split his legs, you can argue, somebody that doesn't know, that he also split your legs. The difference would be you're driving forward, Josh is not. So is that the only difference, I guess, to simplify the question? So you
it's like, I would say just because like you're in the inside doesn't mean you necessarily have the control. Mm-hmm. I guess would be the. So
what class is it control for you? What would make you say I have inside control versus Josh?
Well, okay.
Which is a good question, because if you have this concept down, right, as a new person, and you say you need inside control, what does that mean to somebody that doesn't know what that means?
So it looks like we do have the same level of control, but for example, I can just kind of like push his leg in, right? So he's gonna have to like keep this leg like really, really glued to the inside of my leg here, just to keep it safe. Because if his foot is out here, right, his foot's in danger. We can start to attack all kinds of different little things. He needs his leg in. So even if he steps his leg here, right, can he attack this leg? No, because this leg here is controlling the inside position on this leg. His leg is inside, but it's not actually doing anything as like, it doesn't have like a specific job he's doing other than he's framing my weight back. So I'm coming here, I'm staying heavy on his leg. His leg is inside here. So I would say that we are kind of in what looks like a 50-50 position, but I'm on top and he is on bottom. But because he's on bottom, he doesn't have any movement, and I do. So I would say that that is my advantage. I've got his hips pinned, and he just doesn't have any way to shoot his legs through. If he shoots this leg through, just now, that's it. So he's got the 3/4 guard at best on this side to kind of control this leg, but then we start to hip wrap, and then we can take it back from there. Trying to think of like a good way to explain it, and I just may.
How about this? What gives? Let's put you on the bottom for a second. What gives you inside control? Maybe that'll.
So my legs have inside control here. If I'm like in this positioning, he is not going to be able to bring his legs inside and pass my guard.
Okay, that's perfect. Yeah.
Let me try to adjust this a little more.
Good crotch shot. That was good. Yes.
So if you can see my feet. So for example, if my feet are here, I can tie in, I can shoot up, and then I can come in and attack the leg. If Josh is on top here, right, I have no way to shoot this leg through. It's stuck on the outside. So this leg is on the inside. I need both legs to have inside control from the bottom, I believe.
That's a good, I mean, if you just made that a concept and said, I need both legs inside from bottom control in general to have inside control, that's perfect, right? And as a top guy, all I need to do is put my foot in between his in general, and then I have inside control.
The leg that is in between his legs is in no danger of ever being leg attacked.
Perfect. No, that's all. And that's the thing. Remember, and the reason I bring all this up is last time we talked about leg locks with Justin, right? It was, we just need to make sure that we're talking about every skill level, understanding every little bit, right? So that as a white belt, as a guy just starting, when you say, I have inside control, he's like, okay, this is what that is, right? So, and that's
I would think the easiest way for me to think about it is whatever leg is forward, that's what I have to have inside control of. Like the leg that's staggered back doesn't mean as much to me. It's that forward leg that's kicking my ass.
Well, it does, but it's hard because normally, go ahead 1 second, go switch your screen so I'm not looking at your bellies again. Just because we're talking more than I wanted to, but only like that makes sense, Josh. But what I'm saying is that a lot of times what's easiest as you guys teach jiu-jitsu, obviously, right, is you say it almost applies top and bottom, right? Just like last time when Gary taught his, he's like, having guard from the bottom is like having mount from the top, right? Generalization, right? Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like as Nate puts his leg inside and has one in the back, 100% on the top, that's inside control. However, if I did the same thing on the bottom, it's not inside control anymore, right? It's a little bit different. So that's okay. It's not a big deal. I just want to make sure, because that's a tough thing. We overgeneralize things on purpose just to make it easy to learn, right? So I'm trying to think of an easy way that everybody could get it. And if they don't, if there's not a way.
Right. Like it doesn't always have, it's so broad that it can be hard to really understand it. Like what it specifically means in specific situations.
So would you say in general, you at least start with 2 feet on the inside as a guy on the bottom, almost like a butterfly?
If I'm working as the bottom person, so I'm working against a standing person trying to pass my guard, the first things that I want to kind of address are grips. I don't want this person to be able to put their hands on me and then start to push me back or lift my feet, right? So he can get his hands up, start to bring my feet out the ground, and then I've got to start trying to get my attacks from here. So I want to kind of, like what I'll do is I make my feet heavy by like pressing them into the ground, and then I keep them together. So to kind of, so you can see it on the screen, my feet, because I'm using my feet to become heavy like this, so I'm putting all my weight here, it becomes really hard to push me back. Because I'm constantly attacking the hands, he can't grab my feet. And then because I'm keeping my feet together, it's unless he steps over my legs, right? So if he takes this leg, he can step over, but then I scoot back, leave this leg in, and now I have inside control on this leg and this leg, right? So if he tries to bring this one in, I can use my foot here. If I need to come through here, I bring the leg up and just start to attack from there. And he can't like pass my guard really effectively once he's made contact like that. Like it's like all of his passes need to come from like either like putting me on my back or kind of getting on the inside position and then working through it.
Yeah, no, and that there is a great thing to know, right? If I was going to buy Nate's DVD, right, That's what I want to, that's perfect. That's what I want to know. So in order to pass somebody's guard, you want to put them on their back, A,
Right.
call that A, or B, split their legs so that you can tack, but not let them get a sitting guard necessarily, right? You know what I mean? What you're just saying.
Right. Well, I mean, there's not a whole lot you can do to stop somebody from like sitting down, right? Like if we start a match and then I just sit down, that's like, well, that sucks. I need to know how to like actually interact with that. So if I'm trying to interact with Josh, I have to get past two things, his hands and then his feet. So usually what I'll do is I start to occupy the hands and then I step in with the feet.
That's awesome.
And then if he tries to make like an adjustment out this way, like for example, like I know he wants to kind of keep his feet on the inside, right? So he'll make the adjustment here and then I'll start to kind of like rotate this way. I might even like start trying to break this grip off and then I want to kind of like step off to the side. But I want to keep him from being essentially I just want to keep him from being able to shoot his legs through. So he's going to try to get shin to shin, and then if he can, he's going to try to like kind of pull me back like this, and then start to bring this leg through here. And then I have to start trying to either A, clear this foot off, or maybe like try to like pull out, something like that, kind of limp leg it a little bit. But
those are great. That's honestly, Nate, that's probably, this will help a lot of people. That's awesome. Because, you know, like, especially talking gi versus no gi, in the gi, like not even knowing what I was doing as, let's say, a blue belt, I could get in a sitting position, put my shin to shin, or sometimes even not shin to shin, feed a lapel, you know, the bottom part of the lapel, whatever you want to call it, through underneath their leg, grab it. And then if I stood up, I'm strong enough, I could flip somebody like a somersault, right, and get on top. And it also prevents them from doing what you're saying, stepping back and doing all this stuff because I've got their leg tied in.
Right.
Yeah,
legs tied in, the lapel is there to keep them squared up.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and again, talking what you're saying, that's the difference between no gi and gi. You don't have that anymore. So you can go shin to shin now. The difference is no gi involves a lot of just trying to dive underneath the partner, right? Rather to go for the leg, go for deep half, go to something, right? Where you're getting underneath the person so that you have your control instead of the top guy having control. So honestly, so what I'm saying is, there's a million different ways we could go or you could go. And we're not going to do that. Like, we're going to stick to the script here. But what I want to make sure is those concepts that you're bringing up are beautiful. These are the things that should help, whether you're a brand new guy doing jiu-jitsu, or you're even really, you're a black belt doing jiu-jitsu that hasn't done no-gi. These are the things you need to know. Like, if I sat up, there's no lapel to grab. So if I set up and grabbed the leg and Nate went off and created an angle like that, I'm screwed, right? Like, that's gone. Like, I have to have some other kind of game where I'm attacking the legs, even if it's not attacking the legs for submissions, it's attacking the legs to attack Nate's base, to improve my position, right? So that's very important. It's like, you need to know, like, this is what happens now in no-gi. When some guy stands up, I'm attacking his base because I need to get into a X guard. I need to get into deep half. I need to get into something where I'm back in control, because I no longer can grab the lapel, which was like basically something. And you don't have to have.
It's, controlling the posture. It's controlling your opponent's angle. So losing that lapel grip is huge. And like, for example, with that first passing that I went over in a gi, for example, something that other people have brought up to me was, you will just balloon sweep people who are saying, so for example, if you want to put your gi on real quick, if somebody, does what I'm doing, where we get here, right? And then he just kind of leans forward like this. I can get the sleeves and then start to bring them over this way. and do the sweep, right? So, you know, in the gi, that might not be the right thing to do because they have sleeve grips that they can normally grab onto. In a no gi situation, you know, grabbing onto somebody's wrist, especially if they're a lot stronger than you, is not going to work. So that's like one good way to kind of think about it as well. Like the right thing to do in gi and no gi, like even though the principles are the same, right? Like we're still using our arms to keep your body down against the ground because you lose all of your attacks from there, right? We're still standing up because passing the guard from a seated position is hard. It's just that the principles or the actual moves that we're using to accomplish essentially the same thing are just a little different because we have different tools to work with. But that's why I think concepts are really much better than an actual move because, you know, if I know what I'm trying to get to in a live situation, I can kind of make it up as I go along. I can kind of get creative and work with it rather than trying to stick to a specific like move blueprint.
Absolutely. And that's I think we've stressed everybody that comes in the gym, yourself as a teacher and myself as a teacher, right? Is to know the concept, to know the why. Everybody can learn jiu-jitsu off YouTube, right? Doesn't mean everybody can do that move off YouTube because you have to know why you get that move and when you get that move and how you get that move, right? So you take that move out of the play, everybody sees the move. 1,000 people see the move. Let's say 100 people can do it because they understand the when, what, why, right? That essentially is a concept if you think about it. So if I take everything you just did as a stand-up principle and I generalize it and I say, if in general, just speaking of the last move that you did, I keep my head over my hips, right? So I'm doing everything I can. I stood up from your guard. I kept my head over my hips. That's going to stop you from getting balloon swept, even though, right, like you don't have the grips. That's being general, right? We all know as a bottom guy, even if the guy did the right stuff, if I pushed your hips, maybe I still can break your posture. There's things I can do, right? But it doesn't matter because that's what we say as a white belt all the way up is that as long as I know that, if I was you, Nate, and Josh pushed my hips, broke my posture, as long as in my head I was like, oh man, my posture got broke. So even though I'm not even thinking of move, I would correct my posture. Then I couldn't get swept, right? Essentially. So and that happens to me a lot of times too. Yeah. Yeah, because think about this. Like we all know. Let's make it real simple. Let's say we all know if one arm is inside somebody's guard and one's not, I'm going to get triangled, right? So how many times does that happen when you got swept and then you're like, oh shit, my arm is inside his legs. I need to hurry up and take my arm back out. So I got two in there. That is a concept, right? One arm, one in or two in always.
Well, I do that all the time. One arm in, one arm out for triangles, like it, and I can look for that in mount. I can look for that in half guard. I can look for that literally everywhere.
Yes.
Because I understand if there's an arm inside of my legs and an arm outside of my legs, there's a triangle.
And that's probably the most simplest way to think of a concept. And I know, just speaking to Josh, your partner there in class, we've talked about it a lot, is if my head is not over my hips, it's over my body, I'm going to get swept in general, right? Because what you said earlier
I talked about is from butterfly guard too. It's if somebody is in the butterfly position and their body is over top of their hips, butterfly sweeping them is going to be incredibly difficult.
Yes, yeah.
If I can bring their body forward, then their hips are really light.
Yep, yeah.
So if somebody just presses into me really heavy, they're probably open for a butterfly sweep.
Yes, yeah. So those are, and so if
concept transition from closed guard to butterfly guard to mount, wherever you're going, you can always think if their body is over their hips are heavy. If their body is over this way, then their hips are light. So that means they're going to be easier to sweep. That also means they're going to have much easier time standing up.
Yes.
It works completely in I guess like you're doing different things with the concept.
Yeah, and I think sometimes here's the thing. I think people say that, but they don't say it in a way that everybody can remember, because what they say is break their posture, right? That's such a weird term because we do it, we understand it, but the difference of saying breaking their posture is the same as their head is no longer aligned with their hips, right? That to me makes way more sense. Because now if I'm like, well, yeah, they're top heavy, they're about ready to fall over. All I got to do is get out of the way and they fall over. I'm like, oh, that makes way more sense, because now I guess when people say break their posture, I always think of it as enclosed guard, right? Because that's where, like, if you're in a gi, somebody stands up, you might grab their lapel and you pull them down. You grab, I mean, you're always breaking their posture, but you don't really know what that means. You know what I'm saying? Like, I guess I don't.
Right, like,
maybe somebody else does.
Why are you breaking their posture?
Yeah. But if somebody went, I'm breaking their posture because I can sweep them left and right, then, and that's what happened. I'll be honest with you. I probably had that concept in general, but it wasn't until the seminar that you and I and everybody else did with Tom DeBlas, where he said, look, if their head is way over their hips, you're going to sweep. Don't ever let that happen. And I was like, oh yeah, like that actually is the same thing I've heard since I was white belt, but the difference in wording makes it make way more sense, right? I guess.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I was kind of trying to do here. I want people to, take something that they're familiar with. So these key concepts and principles that they have like accepted and kind of put into their head and put into their arsenal and use in their game, explain why those moves work, right? So like the first move works because we're controlling them from being able to sitting up, and then we're breaking the legs apart. And then, the other one, we're controlling the arm to prevent it from grabbing the leg so that we can stand up, and then work from standing because breaking the guard from the ground is super hard. And then, taking that, controlling the person from the bottom, and then also standing up out of the position, and then what to expect from there, I think, everybody can understand. And that if that, like, based on what I just showed, there's nothing like complicated. Like, everybody knows what they're going to need to do. They're just going to have to practice it and get the timing down on it. So you might get swept initially as soon as you stand up. You stood up, you stood straight up, but you realize, like, I kind of came up too quick, and now my momentum from coming up was used against me to push me down.
Yes.
Much easier than they would normally be able to. So you get caught in that, and then somebody mounts you, and you're like, well, this doesn't work. I just stood up and got mounted. Isn't going to do it.
Even going back to what we just said, if you stood up and you got back swept, they're back sweeping you because they were able to push your head backwards over your body, right?
Right, exactly.
So it's the same concept, right? Like, we're oversimplifying it, but that's the same thing. Like, now, if you understood why you got swept, like, meaning that everybody knows, like, I got swept because he pushed me over, and that's usually all you need. But if you're like, well, I didn't stay heavy forward, but you can't say it's too heavy forward because you'll get balloon swept. You know what I'm saying? Like, but it's a
right.
You're just
sit there, stay all the way forward, and then just get like relocked back in their guard, right? Because if you just kind of almost hang over top of them, like you can, for one thing, if your arms are hanging down, a slick, flexible person like maybe Bobby, for example, will quickly armbar you in that position. Just able to transition their hips from pretty much flat on the ground. You know what I mean? So they don't need a ton of space. You can put them under a lot of pressure, and they can still maneuver and kind of change their positioning. So to kind of like emphasize what I think people don't want to do from here, and what I'm definitely not saying that you should do when I say lean, forward. When we're coming through here, locks the legs. So I don't mean kind of like hang down like this, because they can just see my butt. All right. So when I'm here, I don't just mean like hang down like here to prevent it. We're still coming straight up, but if you can kind of tell, I do have like a slight forward, and it's just to prevent the opponent from being, because if I just come straight up like this, for one thing, I already feel off balance, but as soon as it just takes almost no pressure for him to like push me down from here, right? So by just kind of adding this to it, it makes it really, really tough. So even to give you an example, like you can go ahead and just like push on me. Yeah, like it's just like I'm just kind of emphasizing, and then I get here, and then I can start to get my hips back and escape.
So do some people, this is zero to do with kind of what we're talking about, but it's a random question. So do some people call that the baby wipe or diaper change, our Achilles position when we say that? Is that, is that a 10th planet position, or? Do you know?
I don't ever, whenever I go up to 10th planet, I don't,
That's fine.
get like a lot of the dialogue or anything like that.
Yeah, it's fine. I just remember at a tournament a couple of times as a joke, right? Like not even as a joke, but the 10th planet team was like, baby wipe, and then,
And they kept
other people like laughing about it. Yeah, but that makes sense. I would think that's it right there. Like there's no other baby wipe.
Probably it, yeah.
It's literally it. But or everybody else watching this DVD thing will be like, man, those people are dumb. But anyway, like, no, that all of that is like, honestly, Nate, that's, so one thing that's missing a lot of DVDs is that, right, is I think they don't emphasize enough the concepts, meaning that I can watch a great DVD, the moves are wonderful, I can hit the moves sometimes, but maybe I don't hit the moves all the time. And the reason I don't hit them all the time is because I just really don't understand the concept, meaning the here, what, why, when, to do everything, why things work every time. And then also because of the reverse engineering, right? And that's what I was saying before. As a, a guy that you're doing that to, is sometimes that's what helps me is I'm like, all right, what is Nate doing? Oh, I need, he's trying to do this. If I do the opposite, meaning that I don't even know what you're doing, if I just kind of reverse engineer what you're doing and I can get to the opposite, then I'll be okay, and that's a lot of times as a jiu-jitsu guy, that's what I do, like, for example, not to get too much in the weeds, but sometimes we'll have guys come in and they're doing some fancy new thing, a new position, and I'll say, hey, just put me in that position, right? And that's how we start. I have zero idea what the move is, no idea what they're doing, but I can kind of get a feel of what direction they're heading. So I do the opposite, and then they'll be like, man, that was like, how do you know that? Or what? That's awesome, or whatever they say. And I'm like, I just literally did the opposite of what I could tell they were trying to do. You know what I mean? Meaning that if I put in guard, yes, and sometimes like think of that basic armbar from guard. Some people, especially as a white belt, they'll literally take your arm and try to cross center line, right? Because that's what you're told. If the arm crosses center line, I'll armbar you. So as a white belt, you don't really know how to set that up. So you'll just literally muscle their arm past center line and then go for an arm. Yeah. And so and that happens. So I'm like, oh, this guy wants my arm to go here, so I'll put it here, and then I reverse engineer. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. It's kind of like, and that's kind of where I think timing and setup work, right? Like, you can kind of learn anything, but if you, like, for example, I can show you this, but your opponent understands, like, okay, well, he needs both of his hands on my biceps of inside control. And so if I can prevent him from getting inside control, then I can, prevent him from being able to do this pass, right?
Yeah.
So to add to that, since we did bring that up, I will show you another grip that you can do in case somebody does do that inside control. Or so say, for example, Josh decides that he's going to keep his arms tight in here and not let you. So he's just keeping his arms really, really close. You don't necessarily have to have this like inside bicep here. You only really need to get like here in the armpits. So here in the armpits with the hands, you can still do everything. You're still not in any kind of trouble. You don't have any danger that you have to deal with. Or here with the inside bicep controls. It's either way. So, because I think it's pretty hard to get if, for example, Josh is here and he's always keeping his arms kind of on the inside here. So I'm trying to kind of like loop through, and then he just loops right back through, right? So he's going to kind of keep on doing that, and that's going to make it hard for me to be able to get this kind of inside positioning. So realistically, you're going to have to learn how to like fight back and time these hands and get to like either A, this position, or B, this position. Because in all honesty, I don't have like a set way that I fight hands there.
So what's the downside or number C? Because we ran into this as a team, right? Should you ever, ever is not a right word because sometimes you will, but what do you feel about grabbing the rib cage, bottom of the rib cage with your hands?
Well, I mean,
You can,
are you saying like,
you can get countered there pretty easily with a certain move, right?
yeah. I mean, so if I come down here into the rib cage and I start trying to like, kind of like what we were talking about earlier with grabbing both pants. Some people kind of come here. There's definitely a wrist lock that you can get hit with if you're not like aware of it, So I just feel like really putting my hands anywhere where they can get kind of pushed around is just a bad idea in general. So like, I don't ever want to keep my hands here. There's too much triangle there, right? I mean, there's triangles here. All it is a quick push-pull and a quick enough person, and they're going to be able to hit me with a triangle there. And if I don't have anything to make my arms hard to move, like that inside bicep control or this inside armpit. So like if he tries to move my arms from here, right? Like my hands are inside of his biceps in a way that are like unrealistic. So he can keep his arms here as long as I come through here. Like it's going to be pretty hard for him to prevent me from being able to get to where I want to be. I just feel like everybody can get to this safety position or this one when they're in somebody's guard. I mean, we've all been here before and just like stayed tight, kept control. So all I'm really trying to do is get to here where I'm safe and then start to work my head over top of his head to get my legs light and then bring my feet off the ground.
That's perfect. It's great setup for all your passes. I'll let you be. I think I'm asking you too many questions. So let's go ahead and get on. That's awesome, guys. I appreciate everything you're doing. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you, man. Yeah, because I think too when I wanted to show this, it does seem like there's really not a lot going on. I don't think like it's kind of almost like you were saying a little. It seems like overly basic, but I think it's way better to teach like a short little section than try to like cover every single thing from closed guard, what to expect, because those things will kind of like come up. As long as you kind of understand where you're trying to work from, then you can kind of like build on that rather than trying to, I know for me personally, like trying to remember just like every move, every concept, every just thing from every position is so complicated. And the more steps and things like that there are in a move, and the more things that you have to remember, I just lose it. I just cannot remember. So what I'm trying to do is stick with stuff that doesn't have like a ton of steps, is pretty simple and easy to remember, and at the same time effective. Like you can do all this stuff and be 300 pounds. You could do this and be 140 pounds. And it's going to pretty much work for you pretty much the same either way. So, and it doesn't matter if, for example, Justin were in here or someone as big as myself is in here. So Justin's 180 pounds, I'm 240 pounds. Josh here is, I think, 220. It doesn't really matter your size or skill level or anything like that. These are just basic, simple things that anyone from anything can just, no matter what you're doing, kind of pick up and start to add to their game.
That's good. And I think, like I said, what you're doing is beautiful, because I think there's a fear, right, for guys that are, did gi their whole life, right, to go into no gi. And there's Now there's a fear. I was going to say not a fear, but no, that's a fear because some of those guys, like we always talk to, they're maybe a blue belt, a purple belt, a brown belt. The fear is I don't want to start all over and be a white belt again, right? But it may just be a concept that you need to know. So you're not really starting all over. You're still good. It's just the difference is when you go with Nate, that's a purple belt or brown belt in no-gi, then you feel like you don't know anything, right? As opposed to going with somebody else. So, and that's a credit to you guys. But what I'm also saying is it shouldn't be that daunting, meaning that if you get a few simple concepts that Nate's going to teach you right now, and some of the things that help Nate convert himself from gi to no-gi, that you could be in the ball game within a month or two, right? Or maybe a little bit more.
I mean, maybe not that quick, but the thing, all right. So like, you know, an arm bar is still an arm bar. A triangle is still a triangle. Mount still mounts. You know, so it's not like your whole game is gone, right? It's just that certain aspects of your game are going to be gone. And if you are, say, for example, a lasso guard player, and you do nothing but lasso guard and spider guard, then yeah, you know, your main game is now like gone. It's like it's not there. But you know, close guard, for example, probably not quite as effective, but I mean, you still need to learn close guard. You still need to attack from there. It's just really hard to hold people in a closed guard because you don't have any actual grips. You know, you can control the posture from the top of the head on the back, or you can try to like underhook the arms and things like that to, you know, keep their posture down and things like that. But for the most part, you know, it's just going to be really hard. And yeah, I don't feel like I'm kind of lost in my.
You're fine. And it's really me, and this is, you know, to not knock you off, but if, you know, somebody's teaching normal DVD, they don't have somebody asking all these questions in the background, right? So the only reason, but I do think, on the contrary, this is what will make this better than a normal DVD, is because I think, and this is just me, and maybe somebody will say we're full of shit, is I think the difference is literally the concepts. I think that's what we need to keep driving home. So I want you to show moves, and you are showing great moves. They're awesome. But I want you to teach people the theory, the thought process behind what you're doing. And I think, like I said, it doesn't matter. It's not going to be for everybody. Some people can be like, that was dumb. That Butch Hiles guy needs to shut his fucking mouth, right? It's fine. But I think if for people that don't know, if they listen and this, if it makes sense to them, that's the other thing. We all learn differently, right? So maybe somebody doesn't like this. For those people that don't learn like this, there's a fast forward button, right? And that's like, that's fine. So fast forward it. But I think if you can get this down, what you're showing people is going to be awesome. Because here's the thing: you can go out and buy, and I'm going to mention people by name that are just people, meaning that, you know, Gordon Ryan, Tom DeBlas, whatever. And I mention them just because those are the guys that are coming out with the most DVDs lately on BJJ Fanatics, and they're awesome.
Yeah, I mean, that pass is directly off. So yeah, that was off the Gordon Ryan attacking the guard DVD. So that, I mean, nobody I think can like be like, oh, this is my move, you can't teach that. Be like, you know, that's silly, you know. And plus, I'm also putting my own concepts and thoughts on it. So, you know, it's not like I'm teaching it verbatim like how he is teaching it. You know, you can probably learn a lot more from his DVD than you can hearing me talk. But I would say that, you know, at least, for example, if you train at our gym, right, you know all of the key stuff that I just went over, right? And you've been practicing that, and you've been doing that, so you know it works. You know it's effective. You've been practicing it. But you transition into no-gi, you know, a lot of people in here have not practiced that, and they're like, oh, you know, my normal Monotero pass doesn't work because my hand is sliding, and I can just slide this all over in a quick drag of their arm. So, like, say for example, you know, Josh is here in my closed guard, and he's sitting here with this arm here, right? There's nothing keeping it in place. Like, I can go 2-on-1 at any point in time, and I can drag this arm across. Now, if he wants to try to get this back, he's going to have to bring this arm into it, and then I can start to use that like as a way to start doing my attacks and things like that. His arms are way easier to drag around and attack. So in order to keep his arms safe, getting them to this position makes it hard for me to actually be able to fight back. Yeah, he can just dig them in, and the more he digs them in, the harder it's going to be for me to get in. And while I'm even messing with this, he can already be getting his hand over to here. And once I'm here, I now have to start trying to just switch, because it's pretty much over from there as far as me being able to especially attack anything on his upper body. I pretty much just have the legs. Mm-hmm. And once he starts to step those back and put those in a position where I'm not going to be able to attack them, then realistically, I'm going to probably have to try to like sit up or like try to get a hold of a leg and come up for like a single leg or a double leg or something. Because it's I mean, really, I mean, if you just think about it, like, so we're here. This like, I mean, I literally don't have an omoplata. I don't have, I mean, I can try to do something like this, but if he just kind of spreads his hands to the inside, more of the biceps, so like even more like kind of in here, right? It's even harder for me to like weave it. So between here and then like there and the inside armpits, my attacks are really gone. Like if I'm going to armbar, right? So we're just going to go to like a standard, like he's got his hands here. So if his hands are just sitting here, I can start to move them this way or this way. There's also, if I start to move his arm this way, right, I can probably start to push his hands in. I can, once I start messing with his hands, a lot of the times, rather than trying to hide them, like on control here, they'll bring their hands like in. So he's like, fine, I'll keep my hands away. Now there's nothing controlling my torso. I can just sit up. So you're going to have to put your hands on them somewhere to keep them from sitting up. You have to put your hands on them. So if we're going to have to put our hands somewhere, we should at least know where that is. And so the goal for that is going to either be on this inside the armpits or inside the biceps. This covers the arm crossing the center line. This covers the one arm in, one arm out concept for triangles. This doesn't just shut down one move. This shuts down every attack that they have. Now, if you just sit here, right, you're just stalling. You're not doing anything other than I'm here and you're there and we're tied for points or whatever. There's nothing going on. But if he stands up from here, now I have to either A, drop down and attack this, or B, underhook here and start to attack here. So those are my only two options. And because my opponent already knows my two options, when he does that move, he already knows that A, he needs to be a little bit forward, B, he needs to start pushing this leg down to start getting his knee past your knee line and maintain that inside control on the leg. So
yeah, no, that's perfect. Let's go, just so we don't go down a rabbit hole, let's go to your next step. If I haven't interrupted you and make you mess up everything.
No, you're good. I mean, actually, I mean, realistically, I wanted to do this in like about a half an hour segment. So I really literally only wanted to go over just the standing, where to place your hands, where to control from in the closed guard in order to escape that in the no-gi, and
Okay.
then what the two things you have to expect from there. And then uh, from there, kind of get questions as far as like, you know, what people would expect, and kind of give like answers for like more specific things, kind of like what you were doing earlier. Like, what if the person does this, or what if the person does this? Let people, you know, kind of mess with that and try it, and then expand on it more, maybe in like another one if people
Yeah.
wanted to do that. I just don't want to overload people with information, and I don't honestly have a bazillion different things. So like that is literally what I do for close guard. Like I get that inside control, I work to a standing position, and then once I'm in the standing position, I start to essentially pass guard from here. And I'm controlling their knees on the knee line. So like, for example, if I'm here, I'm keeping this knee down below my knee. If he comes up here, I'm in trouble. If he gets through here, I'm in trouble. So I'm keeping this here, and I'm keeping this leg from attacking as well. So I kind of keep here, and I try to create like a good angle. And so he's obviously well, like I said, this is like a whole another class of things. And I would really like to, if I was going to go over it, be more, have like more of a game plan for it. Because I didn't prepare.
No,
for
that's
that. I didn't prepare for the stuff that I went over.
yeah, no, that's perfect. What I think, so what you did was awesome. As I said, probably like 9,000 times now, right? Yeah, no, so that's perfect. So let me ask you a couple questions, and we'll call it quits at some point. But so first of all, the point of this little segment that we're doing, and that we can expand upon, is gi conversion to no gi conversion, right? So I would encourage people in the comment section of this video. So we're going to post it on YouTube, but we'll post it other places, to ask questions, right? So that'll give Nate and myself and Josh, all of us, something to build upon for step 2, step 3, step 4, right? So if you're like, hey, that's great, this is from there, what about this, what about that, right? And so that also, whether it could be your version, like, hey, like, look, like I know what to do from closed guard, but what do I do from here, right? So that's fine. That'll give us a next step. So, and that actually goes to my next question, would be old school jiu-jitsu, meaning that we're talking about, 1993 jiu-jitsu. What I came from is close guard, right? Protect yourself. Don't let your legs, ankles get uncrossed in the very last moment. Kick somebody's butt, make them work. And then even as we went to like new school jiu-jitsu, in a gi would go, okay, they're about ready to break your ankles. You go to open guard variation 1, whatever your variation. Our variation is shin in control, the spider guard, to de la hiva, to whatever. As a no-gi player, what is your goal? You don't want to be, so to make this question simpler so that so everybody understands, do you play no guard, or close guard? Do you play no close guard? Is that something that happens anymore? Or as a bottom guy, are you trying to jump half guard, deep half, or something else? Or do you just give, the simple answer is you take whatever is given to you. Like, I get that. But in general, is close guard not something that people do in 2020 or whatever?
Yeah, I get what you're saying, I think. So close guard in no gi, I think, requires a lot of energy. And I think Gordon Ryan does a good job of explaining this in his, because I also got the attacking from close guard DVD that he got. When it made a lot of sense, it requires a lot of energy to hold somebody in your closed guard. Keeping your legs closed, controlling your opponent's posture, especially when they're not trying to do anything, right? Like if somebody just sits in your closed guard, maintains good posture, and stays safe, they're extremely hard to attack, right? Like if somebody just knows how to stay safe in closed guard, they can kind of just sit there and stall and not really. So even though they don't have any attacks really, they can definitely just sit there and make it so you can't attack. And I feel like it's hard to create a lot of misdirection in closed guard if somebody's really, really good. It also requires a lot of leg action too. So I don't have a lapel necessarily, so I constantly have to be fighting with the grips, and I have to use my legs to control the posture. So rather than like coming here and then grabbing like a grip that would be here and then like pulling them down this way and just letting gravity. So I'm coming here with the lapel grip, but then I just have to lay back, you know what I mean? And then gravity and my grip, which is really, really strong, hidden underneath his neck, kind of almost behind him, is hard to break off because it's in a place where his hands kind of have to come up, right? Which doesn't make any sense. That's why nobody's going to attack a grip that's all the way deep inside of that collar. You don't have that in no-gi, so I'm constantly going to have to mess around with grips and try to pull his arms across and start doing attacks. And if he tries to do like our standard passing, for example, this is going to get him in like a lot of trouble. Like, you know what I mean? I'm just going to be able to kind of shoot his legs. He can't grip my pants to keep me from pushing this arm in super quick. He can't like grab my material here to keep me from dragging the arm. So, but if Josh, for example, just decides that he's going to hunker his body down and get his arms in this position here, me trying to like dig in here and stuff like that becomes a lot harder, I think. And it just uses a ton of energy. And I just get to a point where I'm like, I will just open the guard and do like a half guard position. Realistically, so I was contemplating two different things when I started this idea. And the other one that I wanted to go with was butterfly half guard, which has been what I've been doing the most of from my bottom game now.
Well, yeah, that's literally what I was going to ask you. Is I think most of the times I see people no-gi, right? They sit on their butt, kind of scoot in, and try to have their elbows inside their knees and kind of walk their way in. And yeah, exactly. So it seems like the more advantageous place for no-gi, I would say, right? So in general too, like, so then the guy standing is trying to push your head, push your forehead, knock you down, get inside control for like, try to knee slice pass. So I would say that's the general position, right? And then as a top guy too, if they're not, if they're squared up, you're going to go 2 feet behind the knees and try to just basically the simple pass, which is basically the same as the gi version, right? Where you grab the back of the ankles or the Achilles, right? And push them over. The gi version is just pushing your knee or put your feet behind their knees and push them over, right? More or less.
Well, yeah, I mean, for sure. I'll tell you what this will kind of add on to what we were doing since it is like guard. Something, if you don't mind, a little bit there. Yeah. So when Josh is actually like laying back on his back, something that I really like to do that makes it really, really tough is I just step like here, or I'll step this way just to make it easier. So I kind of create an angle where he has to, it makes it hard for him to attack. So like from here, I'm in like a lot of trouble if I start trying to like push stuff in. But if I get to this cool angle here, what they almost always do is they slide their hips out like this way, right? To adjust and like kind of like defend. So what I've started to do in order to kind of get past their legs like this is I just keep the leg like up. So as he tries to like adjust, he just kind of like rotates and puts himself like into a like past guard position. Because I mean, from here, like this, it's really like this frame here is the thing that makes it super duper hard for him to re-guard and get his guard back. So
But you like that frame with a, so I would essentially call that a cross grip, or actually it was the same arm actually. So you like the same arm just to kind of give you some freedom with your other arm?
I don't know that I don't think about which arm I'm kind of doing it with.
Never. Okay.
Per se, but the main concept is where he is kind of like on his. So anytime you kind of angle on somebody, so say he goes around like this way over here, like right, what I'm going to do is adjust my hips this way to keep him from coming in on the inside space. So something that was kind of cool that I learned in a BJJ Globetrotters instructional was control exists between the knee and the armpit. So if you think about any position that somebody's trying to get to, they're either trying to get to side body where they're, like I said, in between the knee and the armpit. So like side body would be like this, for example. So he exists in between this arm, he exists in between this knee. Another place where control is safe, for example, he's in mount, right? He's existing in between my knees and my armpits. If he controls my back, it's the same thing. He controls the space in between my knees and my armpits. So as long as he is controlling that space, that's where he's wanting to go. Now, when he is trying to pass my guard from the standing position, and I know he's trying to come around this way, right? So I know he's trying to get in the space between here and here. So I just kind of scoot my hips back, right?
Yeah.
So if I understand that that's what they're trying to do, all I need to do is not get super close, but just use this frame here on the inside of their leg. So as I try to scoot in, he just keeps on pushing it. And eventually I've gotten into this kind of like weird position where he's kind of like almost over my head in a sense. But it's going to be way easier for him to get past my feet from this angle than it is going to be to get past my feet from this angle.
Yeah.
Right. So that's kind of my thinking in that. That was actually the knee, just like pushing that knee like that is like a cool way to do it. Ananias-like pass or a bullfighter pass, but it's not really like that. It's just using a concept where you keep them flat on their back for them to attack. They can also curl up the other direction, right? I mean, so for example, if he's passing my guard and I know he's pressing against this leg, there's really nothing stopping me from going this way, right?
That's true.
But I don't really care either way if he decides to turtle up, because I just look at that as like the next step in passing his guard. Because turtling up at a certain point when you're getting ready to get your guard passed is the correct thing to do.
It is. And actually, I'll be honest, I mean, that's a great concept that I didn't know, or never really thought about, was the knee to elbow concept, right? Which is true.
Oh, the knee to armpit. Yeah, when I heard that, I was like,
yeah, for sure. Because now that and that goes back to what we said early on, that was a concept that was missing in my head. Maybe I was doing it. Obviously I was doing it.
yeah, you do it. It's like subconsciously.
Yeah.
But then, like, you don't even realize that you're doing it, and then you don't even realize you could do it way more than you were.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think that's great. And the other thing that you brought up that I think is awesome is creating the angle. As somebody that fought, stand-up boxing, kickboxing, and even MMA, um, that I think that's hard to teach you. Also, it's another one of those things that we hear all the time, as you say, as a boxer, you'll hear, Floyd Mayweather's creating angles. That's why he's landing punches, right? And so you pretend you know what that means, and maybe you kind of do know what that means, but you don't really know what that means, how to create that angle, right? You know what I'm saying? I've heard that my whole life, and I don't really know. Yeah, it's hard to relate, but I think that's good in jiu-jitsu, because that's what you're saying is that, when I'm squared up, if I'm going to compare this to jiu-jitsu, that means that I'm just hip to hip, meaning that if, Nate's laying on his back, his feet are up in the air, my hips are square to his, I'm not creating an angle, right? We're 50-50. So whoever dominates the position faster is going to win the position, right? As opposed to if Nate doesn't square up, meaning he's the guy on the bottom, he puts his right foot forward or his left foot forward and then starts to move off to one side. He's creating an angle, which causes the guy to now react to that angle. And then you can have your own things, posing those angles, right? So sometimes, for example, an over-under pass comes from creating an angle. I moved a little bit to the right. I know the guy's going to switch his hips, so that's the knee down that I attack for. Right. For people that know an over-under.
You're like anticipating them doing what they need to do to the other move, right?
Exactly.
And that's how you're chaining your next move in. And you do something really cool that they talk about, I think, in John Danaher DVDs, where you create a dilemma.
Yes, yeah.
So it's like, if you sit there, I will just pass.
Yeah.
But if your reactions, I have a pretty good idea of just in general. It's not like a specific move, but I know in order to do anything, you need to get your hips re-angled, right? You
Absolutely
have to make the adjustment in order to attack. So because I know you have to do that, I know that that's what you're going to do, and then I can make my next reaction based off of that.
Exactly. Yeah. And then creating the dilemma, if we're going to talk about what I just said too, it goes with stand-up. And you guys heard me teach class where I always say, like, hey, look, if I throw a jab, right, it's easy eventually for me to counter the jab. I parry the jab, I put a hand up, I block the jab. Now, if you throw a 1-2, now it's a little bit harder for me, right? I've got to block the right hand. And that makes it a little bit harder. But however, what if I throw 1-2-3, 1-2-3-4? Now it's getting harder and harder to block. That's creating a dilemma, which is the same thing, what you're saying, Nate. And I used to, in a roundabout way, I used to say that too. Like, it's the same thing. Like, if you're trying to pass guard and I'm throwing up submissions in the right way, you're worried about those submissions more opposed to passing the guard, right?
Well, it's funny that you say that, because I've been trying, because I think that other sports do a good job of getting people more competitive more quickly than jiu-jitsu.
Yes.
Because they narrow down the effective moves. Now, they'll have like a certain style and things like that, so there is like a wider array, but they're really like simplifying it. And I think something that is a good boxing concept is the jab, right? So if you think about why you're throwing the jab is not like a knockout punch. You're throwing the jab, right? And you are going to get a spectrum of reactions, but you have no idea what they are, because there's a million things that you can do. But if I throw the jab, I will see how you respond. So you can do your jiu-jitsu game like this. You need to have something in your head that you are already thinking about doing from specific positions. So like this pass that we're doing is essentially your jab. You're constantly throwing this jab until you can see how they're going to react to the jab, and then you can throw your next shot, because like they're going to react off the jab by flipping their head this way, or they're going to react to the jab by blocking. Certain reactions cause certain openings to another way, but I have to throw that jab to see how they react and then build my my attacks off of that, right?
Well, no, and that's exactly right. Like for guys that have rolled with elite black belts, yourself and myself and Josh, that is the difference, right? Because what they do is they throw the jab, which means that could be, I throw you close guard. I see what your pass is, how you react. Okay, that's the jab. The guy did pretty good. So now I throw in half guard. He did pretty good. So now I throw in deep half. There's a chink in the armor, right? So now I throw the right hand and left hand, and I just keep it up because I'm like, I found a weakness, right? So that's the difference in most of you guys that rolled with elite guys. It's not so much they roll and all of a sudden it's just like they know immediately that you suck, right? They kind of throw things out until they find your weaknesses, and that's exactly what a jab is. When for guys that don't do stand-up, when I throw a jab, and it's what Nate said, I look to see what you do. So do you go straight back off the jab? Do you circle off the jab? Do you slip to the left? Do you slip to the right? And so every time I look at those things, if they're the same thing every time, then I found a pattern, right? And especially to make it easy, for example, if we're going to talk about, let's make a fight, a UFC fight, Vanderlei Silva versus Vitor Belfort. It happened in seconds, but what he found was Vitor Belfort threw a 1-2. Vanderlei Silva went straight back. He never circled off to his right or left. So Vitor Belfort went 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, 1-2. You know, I mean, to the end of time. And Vanderlei Silva went straight back, which was not, he never countered, he never changed his defense, which meant eventually you can run faster than you can back up. So Vitor Belfort went faster than Vanderlei Silva could do, and he won the fight, which is jiu-jitsu, right? Like, so if I'm throwing these things out and then I'm like, oh man, he doesn't know the counter, then I'm going to throw that and attack, right?
Or like, for example, I get somebody into my half guard. I throw my half guard out. So from half guard, I have like a Kimura I can throw, or I can try to, I don't know, get an underhook, something like that. So your underhook can be a jab, your Kimura could be the jab, but you're going to go for that Kimura, right? They're going to have a Kimura defense, or you're just going to land the Kimura,
exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So off of that reaction, though, I can feel like, okay, he's going to pull out of the Kimura, which means his weight is going to be back. So how can I react off of that? Right?
Yeah.
That's like my kind of my like mindset when I'm grappling is I'm going to get to a position, and I don't necessarily get to 100% determine the position. I just know that like we have to make contact at some point in time in order to grapple. So there's going to be some contact somewhere, and like I know where I'm going to allow that contact to happen and where I'm not going to allow that to happen. And then once I've chosen the position that I'm going to get put into, I can start to fight from there, and I can start to throw passes, throw submissions, depending on what position I'm in, and start using that to facilitate a reaction. And then once I understand the reaction, I might do it 2 or 3 times. Then I know, okay, he's going to use his knee to break my leg off. When he uses his knee to break my arm off of his arm for that Kimura, I can shoot him for deep half. That's what I actually did. I grappled against the Hurricane gym. I think his name is Wes. I can't remember. But that's what he did. I just attacked the Kimura over and over and over again until I like understood what he was just going to keep on doing. And once he brought his knee up, I was able to dig underneath to get my deep half in, and then I was able to deep half sweep.
Which again, kind of goes back to where we're saying, like, it's not to oversimplify jiu-jitsu, but that literally is the difference between a blue belt, a brown belt, a black belt is your wealth of knowledge, right? So meaning that if you
1 second, I've got to answer this just because it's the second time they called.
That's okay. Josh, I'll talk to you, right? Are you okay with that, Josh?
Yeah, it's fine.
Josh is another high-ranking people, but this essentially, what I'm saying is, so we don't have to take a break, is that is the difference. Like, people forget, like, as a white belt to a black belt, we all know the exact same arm bar, right, from guard. The difference is the black belt can make it work because he notices a couple things. First of all, he notices how you defend it. And then he works off that. So then he'll say, okay, he defended it this way. Can I attack the way that he defended it? If I can't, can I set it up a different way to where he worries about a triangle and then I go back to the arm bar, right? Or do I go to a guillotine or a cross choke, which makes him bring his hand up to push me away, which exposes the arm that he's not thinking about, right? I mean, there's no difference, as opposed to a white belt and a black belt knowing the arm bar at a certain point. There is a difference. That's overgeneralizing, because, I mean, obviously when you first start, you suck. But at a certain point, we're all pretty good at the arm bar, because, example, in our class, we start a class and it says, let me do 50 arm bars. There's a point to that. It's not to waste time. And this point, to give credit where credit's due, is from Lloyd Irvin. He said, if I do 50 arm bars every day for 365 days a year, how many reps is that? I don't have a calculator in front of me, but that's a lot, right? So by the time I've done all those reps, am I going to be good at an arm bar? Absolutely. So the point of me and other instructors of doing an arm bar omoplata triangle is to make you get in those reps so that when you see it, you just crush it, right? And that's the same thing. So now you can crush it, but now we're going to get into it. You have to get into it. You have to make the guy push you down. You have to make the guy making a mistake that he knows not to make. But I'll make that mistake if you're choking me, right? I got to push you away. I'll make that mistake if you're doing something.
You're about to get choked out, for example. Doing the wrong thing is the right thing to survive. Like, I will always let the pass happen if somebody has me in a submission, right? So if it's between getting submitted or getting my guard passed, it's always just going to be let them pass my guard. Even though the rule of thumb to not let them pass my guard is this, I'm in a submission, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, so do you want to live to fight another day, or do you want to die? Right, to make it over. That's like another concept. It'd be the same thing. It's like I could be in a Kimura from your guard, and I could submit, or I can just fall to my back, give you mount. Hopefully you don't have the angle anymore and I get out. Now you're mounted, which everybody would say is the worst position, but at least I'm fighting, right? And then I've got another position.
You're not dead, right? You didn't get your arm broken. You know, if your arm is broken and you're on top, your arm is still broken.
It's still broken, yeah. No, so I think, honestly, I think this should help a lot of people. I mean, all these concepts are the most important thing. Like, somebody, if I was taking notes, I would just write these concepts down. And if I could remember them, in general, I would be a better grappler than I was, before, even if I didn't do everything correctly right. One concept I was going to ask you about, Nate, I'm grabbing a paper. So, is like, so if I'm a bottom guy and you stood up, is my best option to sit up as well, to go to sitting guard, or does it matter, right? Should I just lay on my back and let my legs flail around? You know what I mean? So, because some guys are fine with that, because maybe they'll drag themselves into a leg lock position or this or that. Or, I mean, what is your thought process in general, as in, if, somebody broke my guard, they're standing over top of me, should I stay on my back with my legs around, or should I sit on my butt and try to get up and move from there?
So usually what I'll do from that position, if somebody were to do this exact sweep to me, so we're here, so we'll go ahead and do the full thing. Yeah. So we're here, he stands up, starts to work the pass. For one thing, I never try to keep my legs closed. Because it just uses a lot of energy. So usually what I'll do is I'll grab the feet initially and I'll push back just to see if I can get that pass or that sweep off.
Yeah.
But depending on their reaction, I'll either get it or I won't. if they get heavy initially, right? So he like starts to, then I am going to start kind of coming here and hook the leg, and I will usually come into X guard.
Okay.
Because that's just what I prefer to do. I feel like it's pretty easy to sweep off of here, and you know, it also keeps all of my feet safe. So like I'm not in any heel hook danger from here. I have like this leg here is hidden underneath his leg. This one is not at an angle where he could like pull it up or he'll hook it or anything like that. And I've got a bunch of sweeps from here, so I'll just kind of like stretch the leg out, sweep from here. And then once I'm here, then I will start to either attack this leg because it is in heel hook danger, or I will try to like stand back up and attack from here where I have my leg already on the inside position and I can start to attack and try to pass his guard.
So
This is usually how I kind of personally.
yeah, let me add another one into. Let's say that let's put you on the bottom again, Nate, real quick, and Josh on top. Let's say Josh stands up. Go ahead, stand up, Josh. He's able to break your legs open. Go ahead and open. But let's say he backs up from right here. He's able to, yeah, so right there. So at this point right here, would you try to sit up, this, you know what I mean, and go from a sitting guard type position, or what would you, or go to butterfly, or would you kind of just stay right there and try to scoot in?
This space, I don't really want to stay here. I might stay here for a second because he's kind of in a spot where he's pretty close to me. So if I just try to like stand up from here, in the process of me starting to stand up, he can probably start to like pass me to get around my leg and stuff like that. So this is going to be kind of like a timing thing where if he's kind of like back, I've done a lot of De La Riva. I can't really sweep from here. The only thing so I'll get like a De La Riva hook, and this is just to keep them from immediately passing. But generally what they're going to do is start to try to bring that leg out. And then I'll start to try to bring my feet back in. But eventually I do want to sit back up. I don't want to stay here. But this is a hard position to deal with. And I use my feet a lot to keep them from being able to just come in and close the space on me from here. So I'm using this as kind of like a frame. And then also I use my arms as frames a lot. So for example, once he does start, because he's probably going to start getting my legs like past something. So what I will then start to do is try to, and it really, I guess, depends on the pass that he's going to do from here, because I'm pretty much going to have to accept whatever pass he's going to start working from here, whether it be a leg drag or something like that. I guess if, for example, he drugged this leg over and he stepped this leg here, something that I can do is bring this leg across to here, bring this one over, and then start to attack there. That is a 10 Planet move. That's the Jackie Chan.
Yeah.
So, you know, you can kind of anticipate that they're probably going to try to leg drag or something. But eventually, so if he's standing, if he just backs up and creates more space, then yeah, I'm just going to sit up and start to attack from there. And if he crowds me and keeps my feet, so if I'm here when he passes and keeps my feet in his hands, it's going to be super hard for me to just sit up. You know what I mean? Because my feet are here. So I can definitely kick my feet. So that's what I'll do a lot of the times. I'll just like kick my foot out kind of quick and then bring it back in. And once I have my feet free, I mean, realistically, I'll do the De La Riva hook just to like hold on and things like that. Something that people will try to do to counter this De La Riva hook is they'll just backstep off of it And that's when I bring this leg over. So I transition this from here to here. And then let's do a crab run. So if they ever backstep on your De La Riva, I like to do that. Usually what will happen is they'll do that. They'll realize what you're about to do, square back up, and then that's when I start to stand up because so we're here, they get the leg here, I come here, and then they square back up. They really don't have a hold of me like they did.
How often do you use reverse De La Riva from that position?
I do a little bit of reverse De La Riva, but mostly what I try to do is once they're stood up, I just try to keep my leg in between their legs. So like as long as I know this leg is here, if he goes this way, he kind of drags me with him, right? If he goes this way, my foot stays attached and he drags me here. So I just keep this here, and then based on if he just stays standing straight up, right, there's really a ton of space for me to start coming in, shooting through here,
beautiful,
attacking single leg X.
So
go ahead.
I was gonna say I like that a lot. I mean that's kind of another. I wouldn't call that a concept that somebody should live or die by, but I do like that. Right? If you put your leg in there, now when they try to create an angle, they're just dragging you with you, right? Yeah, what people try to do is they try to create some space and then they'll like run around one way or the other. And usually they're making some type of contact with me to try to hold me in place as they do it. So it's beautiful.
You know, they'll try to like run around, but that was just kind of like the general ideas. I'm like always trying to just keep that leg in between there, and then from there, depending on which way they go, and then I'll always eventually get to like half guard, because what they'll do is they bring their weight down because they realize their legs are exposed. So like if I'm here, you know, I know that the person can start to, if I come, especially like in here, so like he's got this like reverse De La Riva and stuff like that, he can start to bring, what he's essentially going to be doing is inverting. So from the reverse De La Riva, so we get here. So what he's going to be trying to do is get to like here. He's either going to come through here and get into X. They can shoot through here to attack the legs. You know, there's a lot of things that they can do from that reverse De La Riva. But I think because I understand that they need to invert in order to get that game going, I'm not ever super concerned with it. But that's just, you know, I don't think I'm rolling against anybody with necessarily a super deep reverse De La Riva game either. So,
well, I'd argue that you are maybe not at our gym, but I mean you are in Ohio, right? That's me being generous. I literally don't know who the fuck you're wrong with, but I'm being very nice to those guys. I would argue that you are. I mean, you're not giving yourself enough credit, right? I think you're doing really good. You know?
Yeah, I mean, if somebody is doing that reverse De La Riva, and I understand like they need to kind of do everything with this leg kind of in order to get it, and they're going to be trying to kind of get that inside space. So usually what I'll do is just kind of like change my angle, and then like I said, I want to keep this knee down and low, and then I can start coming into like a knee slice position out of there.
Yeah.
And I want to use this arm to block this. So another thing that makes this position, all right, I don't know, just with the knee here, is this knee right here will block like a lot of like passing. So, you know, that's really like while we're kind of doing this. And then I kind of like baseball slide like into it to make it really, really tough on them. And then I just kind of like slide my leg down in order to tighten up the space and keep everything, because they really need to get that other leg in. So this works as a shield.
And that's like another thing that I've noticed that you've done really good at, that we can say as a concept, is that if I got in De La Hiva or reverse De La Hiva is to worry about the other leg, right? I mean, in general, I mean, that's, so example, in De La Hiva, we call the other foot. So one is the De La Hiva hook. It's in both reverse and regular De La Hiva. And the other is the distance leg, right? So essentially you're attacking the distance leg on both of them, right? As long as that leg doesn't give you a problem, you're pretty safe, which kind of goes back to the very beginning of the passing, meaning that you put your hips in. Let's say we're talking about not the back sweep, but the guy tacking your leg. So he dips his foot in and he's going to go for the knee bar. But if you watch the other leg and it doesn't get around your leg, you're okay, right? I mean, there's
why I generally end up going for the X guard rather than going for that other leg, because it just dips inside, and then I just, instead of swinging this leg around, I just fish it straight in. So like if he's here, he just got done breaking out of my guard, so you're still close, so we're here, so I just underhook here and here. So instead of like bringing this leg here to attack this, I just fish it in here, and it's way harder for him to kind of stop with this hand, because even if he like gets a hold of it, right, like I still have like the full extension to kind of just kick it out and then bring it around. It's just way harder to control. But if I try to like fish it around here, right, he can kind of come in on the back side of my leg, right? Like take this hand here, and it's going to be like really hard at that point for me to like kind of get this in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
that's a good.
For me, I just personally like hiding here. Also, I feel like I'm just in way less leg danger, right? Like if my foot is on this side of his leg, he can't like drag this here and then start to like hit me in a heel hook or anything with like, if he's like super slick or something like that. Well, here I'm safe and I keep out of trouble, and it's just more comfortable for me.
No, and that's good. It's couple of things. Arguably, number one, before I even get into the whatever, that's old school versus new school, right? Like old school would be jumping in for the knee bar, like we talked about earlier, for IBJJF rules, and then the new school versus Marcelo Garcia, X guard, blah blah blah. But the other thing is, if you as a big guy basically invert to go attack the leg, you've taken away, somebody could argue, your power and your size, because now you've inverted and put your alignment up and down, right? So there's no size or power anymore. It's more of like Josh as a defensive guy pushing you down. So you've kind of taken away some of your power. However, if you go to X guard, I can argue that you're now have a solid base because you're laying on your back. And especially as a taller person, you can extend the person. Yes, and you're attacking their base, which is the points of deep half and half guard, right? So a lot of people would argue, a lot of smaller guys have went to deep half and half guard, which to essentially attack somebody's base. Like Eddie Bravo will tell you he does that because they attack wrestlers. Wrestlers have a great base. If you put a wrestler in his full guard, that guy's not going to be swept very easily, right? Because he's got all his stuff. But if I go underneath the guy, in between, and attack his base left and right, and I have a better shot of attacking his base and sweeping him, reversing him.
Yeah, I mean, you're way more likely to knock them over.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the same principle that like deep half, X guard, single leg X are all kind of working off of being underneath your hips in a way that makes it so you don't really have good balance.
Yeah, and then essentially too, right? If we go back to the concept of keeping your head over your hips, a lot of times when you spread them out, they fall forward, catch themselves, which means their head is way over their hips, right? So then you're kind of attacking a lot of concepts right there. Of course, you got to get good at all those positions, but I like the theory there, right? It's a solid theory. I like that. Some other guy could,
The thing about it is, like with that passing, right? So we all understand the passing, but the fight is the knee. My knee going to the inside versus you pushing my knee down. So I think understanding that that's where the fight is lets you know, A, where you need to try to go as the person, like in my situation, being on the bottom, and also lets you know what you need to do at the top. And that's where, like, you'll start to figure out the person with the better timing, and the person who kind of understands, you know. That's the thing. It's hard. A lot of people, I think, don't know where the fight is with certain moves, like when they're attacking things, and they'll think that there is another thing that they're supposed to be doing, when in reality, like, the fight. So this is an outside of their concept, but like, okay, so if you put me in honey hole, so he comes here and he's got me, you know, a lot of people don't understand where they need to actually
Yeah, sorry, I disappeared for there for a second, but
you're going. I'll wait for you to get back. So, so like, for example, we'll go into like honey hole for a second, because I feel like this is a position where a lot of people just don't know where the fight is actually supposed to be.
Yeah.
So, you know, if I'm thinking about like what he needs in order to like attack this position, right? Like, I know I just need to get my knee past this little barrier.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Let's not stay right there, because I'm not going to interrupt you, but this is exactly what I wanted to bring up, is knee line, right? Is nobody really thinks about that in deep half or this, which this is deep half in reverse, right? Like we said earlier, like guard is mount reverse. This is deep half in reverse. Like knee line is something nobody thinks of. I don't think. They do as you get better, but when you first start deep half, you dive under somebody, you attack their base. Some of those guys never really think of knee line. All that guy has to do is get his knee line free, and then he has the advantage. It's not 50-50 anymore, or whatever it is. He's got, 70-30 or whatever it is, right? So it's essentially what you're doing right now. I'm glad you brought it up. That's perfect.
Yeah, I really think this is like kind of, people are going to be sitting here and they think like, I just need to try to get my leg out of here, but they don't know like the principle that they need to be thinking of. So if his legs are here, he's got like a wall that is like from here to here where his legs kind of connect. What I essentially need to do is get my like knee past here, and once I'm there, there's really like nothing that he can do as far as like attack lines. Like my foot is too shallow. Even if it's like pointing this way, right? Like he really doesn't have anything once my foot is outside here. Now, if my leg is here, and then he attacks that, I'm toast. I mean, completely toast. But if, for example, I keep my heel pointed towards his ribs, so if you think about the way that he needs to actually have my foot in this position, this is the opposite direction. So like he wants to have my feet here, I'm putting my feet here. I'm doing that by pointing my knees this way. Once I'm here, I just need to make sure that I keep this foot over here away from his legs. And that's going to also keep me out of that danger as well. So let's scoot over a little bit this way. So we go from here to here, foot pointing towards the ribs. We're getting here, and then boom, boom. We're good to go. We've got the knee line past the rib or past the legs. I'm not in any sort of leg or ankle endangerment. And then like the same thing that you were talking about with deep half, right? So once I'm in his half guard and he shoots his deep half in and everything, he gets me up here, right? Once my knee, like you were saying, is past this line here, I'm safe. All I have to do is slice down here, bring my hips back. I'm back in the 3/4 guard. I can start to try to gift wrap this hand here, take the back, start to peel this arm, and gain control. So those are 2 examples. And then the first example that we went over with the pass where I'm pushing the leg down. There's all kinds of places, but I feel like mainly where I want my shin is right here on the inside of his legs, or on the back side of his legs. As far as like keeping my legs safe and stuff like that.
I mean, even if we go back way to the beginning, it kind of goes to your concept. If you think about it, it's like
right.
The knee line. So when
all that knee line stuff.
Yeah, you're pushing his legs down so that you have knee control, right? And then it's easier for you to pass and less likely that he gets you in a position that's advantageous for him, right? Beautiful. No, I mean, it's, and essentially, again, I think if we're going to say anything about today is we're trying to get to concepts, right? And I think the concept is that, right? We didn't bring it up initially, but I know I've heard you say it before, and it's one of the things I've been pushing down too. Pushing out is knee line, right? Rather that's deep half. I know, for sure you've been there when I was teaching some deep half moves, and it was like I need to control the knee line. If he gets his knee line free, then I'm in trouble. Which is the same thing, which is helpful even for me, right? If I was
where you as the person in deep half need to stay as well, because if I want to maintain my deep half guard, then I know I need to keep my knees upright to keep that knee line from getting pushed down, right? If my legs come down, the knee line comes past my legs. So I know I need to keep my legs up, which lets me know where, like I said, the fight is at, right? That's what I was talking about earlier. It's like knowing where the fight is, like we are fighting for knee line and who has got that. And the person that understands that fight the best and knows what they're actually trying to accomplish is the person that's going to actually win.
For sure. And I think that's something that I've been wanting to, unrelated to what we're talking about now, but one of the things I wanted to be driving home as a teacher, as an instructor, is even a half guard. Is a lot of times people forget, like let's say they're doing Z guard or, you know, whatever the hell they're doing. They forget about their bottom knee too, right? Is if I control the bottom knee and move my knee up and down, then I'm controlling the knee line more so than I would normally. Because I think a lot of times like people will get knee sliced past, the bottom knee stays where it is, and they recover with their hands or they recover with the top knee. Sometimes it helps them, sometimes it doesn't. But I think, this is just me thinking before, I think that people forget how important the bottom knee is, right? Because normally, just like you're saying, everything we're doing knees together. We're controlling the knee line together with both knees. But sometimes people forget in half guard, they leave the knee on the bottom knee. It lays on the floor. It just lays there. Right, it never.
Right, and in reality, you know, I'll tell you right now, I don't think that's a good idea against Rick.
It's not good.
You know, he's one of those people that you either have to have your leg kind of all the way in or all the way out, because you know you've got that knee bar issue, and you know once they start to get past this part of your foot, this part of your leg becomes a frame. So you're kind of like using this to come up when this is getting passed, and when they start to back up to get past this to create space, you can start to use this leg to start hooking again. And it's just like a back and forth with your, so like if this is your bottom leg, right, it's just going to be a constant back and forth of like having the hook here and then using the knee as a frame here. So the knee can be a frame against the other leg, and this leg can be a hook, and they can go back and forth pretty easily without having to worry about giving up like anything. And it's really going to be based on what they're doing.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, because that's one of the things for guys that don't know what we're talking about. Like we have a partner, which when Nate mentions Rick is one of our fellow black belts, but he does a good job, whether it's leg lacing position or under over position, where if you're in half guard, like a deep half guard, which is a traditional old school half guard, arguably, where you're locked in deep, where the crook of your knee is around the ears. He's very good at controlling your body, right? So I think more of the new school way is almost having your, I wouldn't say instep because it's not really, but it's almost having your shin control half guard instead of your knee. Does that make sense, Nate, what I'm saying there?
I mean, and it's really true, like, if you think about it. So, like, when I'm rolling and I'm using my half guard, this is a pretty shallow hook.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Here, let me switch angles real quick. So, yeah, this is what I'm kind of talking about. Just like, there we go. So this leg works as a hook and a shield on this hip.
Yeah.
All at the same time. And then it also lets me, so like how I'm doing my like butterfly hook is, well, I won't get to that, but
That's
yeah,
okay.
you're really using me as a blocker, so I can come through here, or it can come through here. And it's just like a back and forth.
If I was going to argue the biggest problem for old school versus new school or anybody in general, it is that right there. Because literally, here's the thing. And I came up from, like I said, like 1993 jiu-jitsu, which is essentially when Americans learned jiu-jitsu from the UFC, 1993, right? Mm-hmm. Half guard was a transition to full guard. Right? There was no half guard. It wasn't until a guy named Gordo, which a lot of people don't know, kind of revolutionized half guard. But I would also give Saulo Ribeiro like the biggest credit because he's the one that got, I mean, he was beating guys 30-0. They had to make a rule because he was beating so many people by 50-0 to where you could basically get skunked. If he got you up by like 27-0, they would just call the match. But anyway, the reason was because he was doing stuff like this. And so I would argue that this is even more, like, I still don't think people realize that, right? They hook the knee as a bottom half guard guy, and it's so deep that the guy's already past your knee line. Many people are okay with that. They survive. But I do think, honestly, that is the difference between no-gi and gi, is that no-gi revolutionized. You have to be more cognizant of the knee line because there's no grips. You can't get away. You can't save yourself with something, right? And so a lot of people don't know that. And so what Nate just said is a big thing. And I know the Henzo guys bring that up a lot, is the bottom knee. Don't let anybody control the bottom knee, right? If they leg lace you, it means they're controlling your bottom leg. You can't let that happen. You got to be able to move that knee up and down, left and right.
That's what Joshua had started to make the adjustment when we were rolling the other day. It was pushing that leg in and getting his other leg in front of it. And nice. Once he could get there, he could start to work passing. But until he dealt with that bottom knee that can come up and in whenever it wants to.
I couldn't get hip to hip. It's a frame.
Right. It works as a frame so they can't get any, like what he's going to kind of try to do is, in reality, he wants to get this leg in front so that he can, or we'll do it on the other side. Yeah. So you can tell which side I always play jiu-jitsu on now. So as long as, see, here's my knee, like this is here. Now he can just literally come on this inside space and I'm flat and I'm controlled and I can't do anything. Let's keep down that way just because we're like halfway in. There we go.
That's perfect, yeah.
So in order for me to really keep him from being able to do any of that type of passing, keeping this knee here makes it so without even using any of my hands, makes it incredibly difficult for him to come in here and like crowd me and make me feel like uncomfortable in it. And then, this is just one frame. Yeah. So this is without my hands. This is without anything else. Once you start getting this leg into play and then my hands into play as well. Framing has become like the game changer, especially them framing on this hand all the time. Once they like finally bust through your legs, it's like they still have to deal with the frames. And I can start using these frames to go over like concepts we were talking about earlier. You can see he has to like keep his balance on this arm, right?
Yeah.
Which means like this leg is going to be heavy, this leg is going to be light. So if I want to get this leg right, then I need to get him onto this arm, which means I need to try to like push his body and stuff a certain way. And I can use my frames in order to like push him how I want to push him and create space how I want to create space.
Well, and he's also not meeting which I didn't write the exact concept down. What is it? Was it armpit head? Right? He's not be able to get his armpit. What was it? Armpit foot. I know I sound like an idiot,
yeah,
right?
I mean, he can't get on the space between my knee and my armpit.
Yeah, so exactly.
Yeah.
So meaning that your frames keep him from getting that connection, right? So
Right.
this is a question just for me. That's actually not a leading question, but how often do you turn your foot down like I do to keep that, or do you just leave your knee pointed up? Do you feel, you know what I'm talking about by the knee put? I know.
So like
But
so if he's here, he's using this foot to trap this foot.
exactly. I usually use that concept, and then sometimes I'll take your left leg now and put it on his hip. Sometimes, you know, right?
This left leg for like
No, I don't even use Z guard. I'll just sometimes let my instep or foot, the bottom of my foot, rest on his hip.
oh, you mean like this?
Yeah, and Justin does that too. Not all positions, but the reason I do that too is look how far I keep the guy away, and then it also allows me to put the butterfly hook in, so I can go a half butterfly. You know what I mean? But
That's what I do. So I generally like so what people I've generally like noticed or trying to get is like I use this leg as a way to keep the upper body on this side off of me.
yes,
I use my hands on this side to keep this frame on the
very good.
arms. Then once I'm here, I can fish this leg in.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. Like that's awesome, man. You got a good. So let's look at it. You guys can back up so you're not awkward for you guys. Because I don't want to talk for a half hour and all of a sudden you're like, man, that was really weird. I was sitting between his. But so if we look at two things here, right? Is as Josh as a passer, right, and Nate as a guard player. Josh as a passer, space is his enemy, correct? Right. So
Yeah,
by
I mean, definitely, you know, at the end of the day, he's trying to close that space to make contact, to be inside body, mount, back control, knee on belly. I would say knee on belly, you kind of don't need that chest to chest kind of thing going on, but I feel like you get into knee on belly off loose passing. So there's tight pressure passing and then there's loose passing. And I think going back and forth between the two is what's going to give you the most effective guard passing game. Because I mean, I feel like that's probably the thing I've gotten the most success lately is, you know, I'm pretty hard to hold in anybody's guard. And it's mainly because I'm always passing from the standing position. And then I have like my little rules of thumb to, you know, stay safe from like leg locks and just attacks in general. And I understand like where I'm trying to get them. But I switch back and forth between loose passing and the pressure passing in the right spot. So
and you know, that is the difference between your level and blue belt, mid purple, right? So the difference is if we're going to overgeneralize things, there's as a guy that's passing, is I got to be as tight as possible. There's no space. Space is the enemy. And then defensively, meaning let's put Nate in defense. Your shield is creating space, right? So that's what you're going to do. However, as a purple belt, I mean, listen, you could be any belt. I'm just being like purple belts, like obviously the point where you start to be awesome, right? But as a purple belt, typically what that means is I can now take that concept and reverse it. so I can be tight as hell. And this is what I do to pass, and this is probably what Nate does to pass. I think really as you get to high purple, brown, and black belt level, what you do is you combine two concepts. I take away all the space, and then I would get, I'm going to use Josh as defense. I take away all the space. So therefore, I know Josh is going to push me away. He's trying to create space. He's giving all he got because I'm crushing him. So then I time it to where he gives me all the space. He gives me it back. I give it to him, and I quickly go back and then quickly go forward. So I try to like trick him, which is essentially all jiu-jitsu is. Like if you think about it, right? Like if I'm trying to triangle and you're trying to pass, I push you back. You push me forward. I push you back. As you push me forward the next time, boom, I triangle you, right? I set you up. That is what then as a purple belt and higher, that's what they can do. They can take away space. They can give it back, and they can take it away again. And that's what newer guys have. It's because of timing. It's nothing different. Like we always said, we all know the same moves. It's the timing, right? Is that Nate is going to hit an arm bar, he's going to hit a pass before.
You know, it's funny you talk about that too, because I think you have a really good concept. You're like, I don't have any space.
Yes.
And I know that they can't do anything or move unless they create space. So allowing them the space to make a mistake is like perfect. Like that's exactly what you kind of have to do, right? Like once I've gotten into a position where I've made it so like I can pin them down, they can't move. Sometimes I need to let them have the space, but you're choosing the space they get, right? Like they're trying, but you're choosing when it happens. You're choosing how it happens. That is why your timing is better, because you're deciding when it all occurs. Like they're just reacting to the tightness and the pressure.
Yeah. Well,
now if they sat there and relaxed and didn't like go super hard into it, then they can try to react a little better off of it, right? Because now they can use the timing of you finally creating the space to really get where they actually wanted to be, rather than trying to like force that.
For sure. Well, it's a combination of you not letting the guy, you're selling the move. It's almost like pro wrestling, right? I'm selling the move. Like the crowd doesn't know that you're not trying to be tight, right? You're selling the tightness. And Josh thinks, man, he's crushing me. He's giving me all the pressure. He's trying to pressure past me. He's trying to crush me. Then all of a sudden you think, you're like, my frame's created enough, opposite pressure that I have space. Man, I'm doing good. And then all of a sudden Nate sucks that back, right? And you're in a darce, or you know what I'm saying? Or he passed or whatever. Yeah, and it literally is, and there's no way for a new guy to understand that until you get to that level. That's the only difference. Like that is essentially, as a black belt, that's how I pass, right? Like everybody, like when I go with the best black belts in the room, I pressure pass. I use my 240 pounds to think so they're miserable. And then as they're pushing me with all their might, they've created enough of a frame to where I can't move. I let them think they've won. And as they think they've won, I change the angle, which is Nate talked about earlier, just enough to where now I can pressure pass again, and I passed. But the angle was what created the difference, or the change, right?
Yeah, that all sounds really good, because like, yeah, if I just keep on trying to go in and like pressure into, so I'll have to scoot a little closer towards me. Yeah. Like if I have like all of this guard, he's keeping this up, right? So he's not letting me get in here. He's using this as like a frame. Like for me, like I just feel like it would be silly for me to try to like pin all this stuff in and try to like pressure in past this, because I've got to get past frame.
Yes.
So this is crazy. Like getting out.
Yes.
There's nothing. So when somebody has all these frames like this, another thing that you can kind of think about is if there's pushing you away, there's nothing holding you down. Mm-hmm. Right? Like
yes.
If the knee is shallow, right? The hook is shallow. That means the hook isn't strong. That means I can just stand up.
Yeah.
Right. So I will just stand up out of that pass. And then if, for example, like he is here, right? So we're here. I don't want to try to deal with all this. I stand up. Now look, this leg is already going down towards this way. It's going to be really, really hard for him now to re-guard, right? He's going to have to do a lot of work. By the time we're here, I'm already starting to pass. If I sit there, I just try to go in, and that's what people try to do to me, is I will get there, I'll have all these frames, and they try to fish and weave in, but there's 4 limbs, okay?
Yeah.
I have 4 different frames. You have 2 arms. Your legs are on the ground. They can't fight back because you're sitting on them, right? I'm on my knees. I can't use my knees to fight back against my opponent, right? I have to make it so like he's got all those limbs. That's cool. I need to make sure that I use my advantages, which is my mobility. So yeah, I have to step a lot more to get here. He can make an adjustment really quickly. So he can always square back up to me. So, I mean, he's got his advantages too. But I still have to stand on my 2 legs. So my feet aren't as much of a factor. That's why I have to use my hands to attack his hands so that his hands are occupied. And I use my knees and shins to attack his legs.
Yeah.
And that's how I'm actually attacking the guard and stuff like that when I'm in these positions. Like if somebody's framing super hard, I think it's pretty much impossible to try to like navigate through all that. There's just too many arms and legs. And once I get past the legs, the arms replace the legs. Once I get past the arms, the legs replace it. And then it's not only just the arms, right? Like, so it can go from my knees being the frames to my hands being the frames to my elbows being the frames. And like, there's way too much going on for me to sit there and try to engage that from my knees where I don't have any movement versus standing up out of the position. He no longer has his leg frames, right? I mean, if he sits back up, right? But I can probably control his legs on the way up. So from here, he's got everything hooked in. He's keeping everything tight, and he's not letting me get into space here. That's fine. Oh, I've still got the feet. He's still on his back. He's way easier to pass from here than he is here, right? Once he gets this inside shin control, like I'm doing way, way better. So I think it's better to step back and then come in and start doing the pressure once you've created a better angle like what you're talking about.
Yeah, I agree. And that's also when we go back to where there's timing. There's a point in that, right, where you're putting so much pressure on the guy that his only object is to frame and push away, right? And so what you do is you create a dilemma for that guy because there's no dilemma. There's Josh pushing back with all his might, and there's Nate pushing forward with all his might. So the dilemma is Nate stood up and backed up for a second. The dilemma is, now what do I do? So the in-between is Josh is trying to figure out what is the guard that I use, because now everything I pushed forward, I got my space. I've got to go into my next step, where Nate just made a half a step backwards to make you think, and then he went immediately forwards, which goes to the timing thing that we talked about. As people get better, they have more timing. So he didn't let Josh or his opponent go into, there's enough space to where he put his foot here. He put his, you know what I mean, where he got into another X guard, or he didn't let you get into that. He put enough to where there was enough space to where you thought you had something, but right when you started to get something, he took it back away, right? Does that make sense? It's oversimplified, but that's the part that everybody's missing. Because if you go back too far and you let the guy on the bottom get into X guard, stand or sitting guard, shin in guard, now he's back in the ball game, right? There's a fine line of pressure, to where the guy thinks he pushed you away just enough right? Where he's got something, but you didn't let him actually he never got into another guard. He was more into the same defense where now he's overextended pushing. You've beat the overextension to passing the guard. Does that make sense? Kind of.
Yeah,
That's the fine line. It's hard to define.
it's hard to initially get that inside space. Sometimes, like, your opponent will win that initial exchange and then pull you into like some type of guard. So, especially, you know, if they're getting like underneath you like that, you're probably just going to go from, or they start attacking your legs, you're probably going to go straight up, just like straight down.
Yeah.
Because you want to keep your legs from being attacked. So you're going to bring your weight down, you're going to bring your legs back, and they're going to go into some type of like half guard, butterfly guard, knee shield, something, right? Like, because your legs are back now, so the leg attacks are gone. Now I have to attack the closed guard, and then, or like a half guard of some type, maybe transition into full guard depending, but they've only got a limited amount of options once you kind of drop down, because that's what you're giving them. And then that's like kind of a good way to get past the leg attacks, right? So it's like initially we kind of stepped in, they started attacking the legs, we bring our weight down. Because, like, for example, if I do all my passing from here, I am safe from leg attacks, which I think is the incentive behind why people still pass that way to this day, is because they're so concerned about having their legs attacked that keeping their legs out of the mix will keep them from having to deal with that.
It'll keep you safe from leg attacks, but most guys, if you have a good leg attack game, you have a good game in general, right? So that means that it'll keep you safe from leg attacks, but you're not going to pass because Nate, whoever, let's say Nate, they're framing you, you're not going to pass. Your only objective is to get into some leg attack game. You're going to lose that game. So therefore, you've not gotten to the position to where you can pass. There's exceptions to that rule, right? There's over-under passes. There's some things you can do to make sure that you don't get a 2-on-1 position in general. I'm not going to get stuck in the weeds and do that stuff. But in general, I mean, I think that's beautiful. Like everything, those kind of add all your concepts together, Nate, which is a solid game. Like if somebody could follow your game, and including you and everybody, you just keep expanding upon that game, and understanding those concepts, you're safe. Because like that's exactly the thing. Like we went from a concept could be passing the guard, but it's the same thing. The more space I create, in general, the guy on the bottom has a better chance of submitting me, right? So I have to take the space away. So that's concept number one. Then concept number two is the way that you do that is you control their legs. So they're going to try to dive under my standing pass, attack a 2-on-1 leg. But if I'm controlling their legs, I'm also taking that concept away from that guy. I'm also keeping the space tight, right? And then on the off chance that they've created enough space by pushing me away with their distance leg, then I can go tight, reverse, tight, trick the guy, right? And then I'm back in the ball game, blah, blah, blah. I mean, we're right in everything, which is perfect. It's just understanding simple concepts. Honestly, the concepts are very simple. Now, implementing the concept is a little bit harder. Wouldn't you agree that that's harder? Because now you have to be good. I have to. Good.
I kind of like to think about too, I mean, you could like go over every single jiu-jitsu move that would make somebody like a black belt in like 2 weeks. Come to 2 weeks of class, you just go over a ton of information. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, you're never going to learn timing, misdirection, setup, any of this stuff without actually putting in the time and rolling. Like, you're going to have to actually physically roll, because as much as I can conceptualize it to you, it's like being a rich person and knowing what being a poor person is like. You know what I mean? You're like, you can kind of understand it, but you'll never truly know what it is like to be poor as a rich person unless you've been poor before. So it's like the same concept. Until you've actually done it and really experience these concepts and put them into action over and over and over again in a gym, they don't do you any good. Like, you can sit here and watch this video or watch a Gordon Ryan instructional, and you can do that every day. You could run through the entire instructional. You'll watch the whole thing. If you never practice it, if you never do, if your body actually never develops the muscle memory and the I've become more flexible. I've become more mobile. I've developed a lot of like physical attributes from physically doing jujitsu. And, I've developed a lot of this timing because I roll all the time. So that's, I think this is a journey. If you're not in it for, I think you could probably do it at quickest like 4 years if you're like amazing and you have like the best instructors in the world and they're like personally working with you. But this is a 10-year journey. This takes a long time. This takes a lot of mat time. This takes a lot of getting beat up. And, you just have to go through all that to learn it. Like, that's just what it is.
That leads me to maybe my last question. But so as a 4-stripe purple belt, which you were, and Josh, your high level was a blue belt at the time, how long do you think the transition is? And that's not, listen, like, we know that there's not an exact answer. To understand these concepts, to switch what as a gi, in the gi as a 4-stripe purple, that's pretty high, right? A 4-stripe purple means your game is not going to change. What's going to change is everything we just talked about, your timing. You're going to learn 1 or 2 new moves that may change your game, but in general, you've got your game. Josh, as a helper of this and as a competitor, your game's not going to change, right? What you are as a mid-level blue is what you are. Like, it's hard. Like, if somebody asks you right now, what's your game? We have a hard time answering because we're not watching ourselves, but what your game is, what you're doing right now. You're going to learn some things that are different. And your game, to be honest, may change a slightly bit because here's the thing, just for context, I came from Hoist Gracie, old school Gracie, so closed guard till purple belt. However, I don't use closed guard ever again. So, right, I use a lot of half guard and stuff, but I still have a good closed guard. That doesn't mean that that's still not my game. My game still kind of evolves from that. My point is, again, as high level jiu-jitsu guys, both of you are, how long do you expect to make those concepts come into reality for no-gi? Do you expect somebody, should they be scared? Should it take a year? Should it take 2 years? I mean, it may take longer. I'm not saying you're going to be an expert at no-gi. I'm going to say to make you what you are no-gi, what you are gi, to be comparable. How long do you think that'll take?
To even it out? Well, yeah, you're right. It is going to be, based on, I think, how much your game depends on the gi. So if your gi game doesn't rely on a ton of grips and doesn't, it's not a gi game, you're not working with the lapel all the time, you're not working with sleeve grips all the time, you can probably adjust, pretty quickly. There are gi people who win no gi worlds and the Abu Dhabi and stuff like that, all the time. So, and in fact, you really see nobody from 10th Planet, for example, which is where I've been going to work on no-gi stuff and things like that. So I don't think that, anybody has a particular lockdown on what it is. I think, you can still work in a gi and then somewhat, it's obviously like a purple belt in a gi and a purple belt 10th Planet no-gi person to a person who has never done jiu-jitsu before is going to be very similar.
Yeah.
But like when you're grappling with me, for example, you lose your grips, right? Like you lost your pants grip one time and you were like, yeah, man, I was I was going to grab your leg and then just pass.
I was
You
lost.
didn't have any canceling, right? I was like,
Yeah.
so, you'll have to make adjustments there. I do disagree a little bit because with what you said earlier, just with the game changing, like, I think, at a certain point you can get stuck into a certain game and you may not evolve super far outside of that, but I would say that my I don't know. I mean, so much of my stuff has evolved and changed and is now different now than what I was doing before. Just because I had some bad strategic things in my head that I had not developed. So, back when I was, a 0 strike purple belt, back before I had quit and then come back, I almost always passed on the ground, like on my knees.
Yeah.
I never stood up to pass. Something that you said that really made this make more sense to me than anything else was whenever we would drill, you'll say, don't stand up so that we can work the pass or we can work the position, right? So then what I started thinking was, I was like, well, okay, I can just stand up.
Yes, exactly.
That's it. I was like, I'll just stand up and work the pass instead. So, I mean, I would work in the class on the drill and not do that. But now when I started passing later on, before I had started going anywhere else or messing with anything else or trying anything else, I always just worked from the ground. But then I started to think about that concept more that, passing from standing would take away all the moves they would do. And I was like, you're right. If I'm standing up, there's no contact with me, there's nothing they can do.
Yeah.
So I've developed a lot more standing, passing, and attacking from the standing position rather than attacking from the ground, which I think is like a big change. Hey, sorry, my phone died, which had my mobile hotspot on it. So unfortunately, we're doing this on his cell phone now. Just wanted to say thank you for watching and everything. It's been a huge honor for me to work with Josh and Butch and everybody, and hopefully this is something that benefits you all, and it helps me as well. So thank you, and you all have a good one.